GT Sprint Racing takes center stage as Silverstone hosts the first ever round of the IVRA GT Sprint Series. The International Virtual Racing Association begins its first ever winter season of competition as the GT Sprint Series looks to debut with a bang, as the ever popular GT3 class takes center stage for sprint racing chaos. It's a race format those who have watched GT Sprint Racing in the real world will be familiar with, and two 60-minute races with a mandatory driver change await the teams competing here today. Hello and welcome to the first round in the inaugural season of the IVRA GT Sprint Series, with action coming to you from the famous Silverstone circuit. My name is Arjuna Kankipati and I'm joined by Sumil Arora in the virtual commentary booth. And Sumil, this is looking to be a very interesting series in terms of its format. I cannot wait to get the action underway.
Likewise, in the real world, I'm a big fan of GT Sprint Racing and the kind of action it can produce. And when you bring that on the sim with the quality of the level of the sim racing drivers that we have here, it just makes for something oh so spicy. Especially when you consider that the first race happens right here at Silverstone, the home of British motorsport, a circuit so wide, so open, and the quality of racing that we can expect here is just going to be mind-blowing.
Let's take a look at the schedule. 6 race weekends, each weekend involving that double header of racing action. We have a few rounds from the British Isles. We'll go to Donington Park next before heading over to the famed Daytona International Speedway Circuit. Park Zandvoort will be another European round before we head back to the Americas for the final 2 road races at Road Atlanta and Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Sumil, it's a very interesting schedule here. Some different tracks. You look at Donington being tight and twisty just like Road Atlanta, but then you look at Daytona International Speedway. That is going to be a draft fest race indeed.
Absolutely. Daytona with its big bankings and its long straights is going to be a place where you have to tinker and manage your setup perfectly, just like all the other circuits. Silverstone, in fact, the one that we're racing on today, has a completely different challenge, because here, not only have you got lots of long straights like the Wellington Straight and the National Pitch Straight as well, but you also have some mind-blowingly tight and twisty corners. Case in point, Brooklands. You've got Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, you've got Wales, Stowe, all the tricky corners where you need the downforce, but along with the straights where you need the draft as well, where you need as little drag as possible. On the whole, Arjuna, every single circuit offers a completely unique challenge, and managing your setups here is going to be so critical.
It will be indeed, and we say hello to you for the first time this season. Very glad that you can join us here. We'll take a look at the race format, and it's an interesting one. Qualifying 1 has just gotten underway. However, 5 teams are not going to be competing in this portion of qualifying. They're going to proceed straight to qualifying 2, where they will battle it out for pole position. We then have 2 60-minute sprint races. That second race is going to be a reverse grid based on the results from race number 1. We will have a 40-minute break in between those 2 races so the teams can get prepared. But Sumo, reverse grid racing, it always encourages teams to get the maximum results from race number 1, so you can really set yourself up to charge through the field in race number 2.
And it's going to be wild, because the grid that we have here, it's not a short one by any means. It's a properly big field, and if you win, it's not like you're going to have the top 8 or top 10 or top 12 being reversed. It's every single one of the cars. So if you win, you've got a properly tough challenge in the second race, and all you've got to do is hope for the best and keep on charging, because in the mid-pack, there could be a lot of drama along the way.
GT Sprint Racing, it always produces chaos. One thing you will want to note though, live race control and safety cars. One of the few leagues in iRacing competition that does include a safety car system. Now, for race control, that does not mean they're going to have live stewarding for, protests as they come in. All penalties are going to be applied post-race. But Sumo, that extra factor of the safety car, just one more thing these drivers have to consider, especially when they plan out for that driver change.
Exactly, lots of things can change with the safety car as well, because we expect lots of drama, lots of crashes to happen in a race like this one. And normally in a regular iRacing GT3 race, we continue on, we have a short caution, maybe not even that, sometimes even a yellow flag, and we're over and done with it. Here, things are going to be a lot more different. With the safety car coming in, it can change strategy quite a bit. And you might be thinking, hey Samuel, it's only a 1-hour race, what kind of strategy do we have over here? Trust me, there are a lot of things to consider that we shall speak about as and when they arrive in the race. So till then, we can hope for the best and kind of preview what we're going to expect here.
Yeah, and we talk about the driver change window. Just to remember, 35 minutes is the maximum drive time that any one driver can have. So the pit window between 25 and 35 minutes. We will keep you updated on that. One thing you will also want to note, there are a number of teams who did not register for the session correctly. As a result, they did not register with the right team details. Sumo, 3 teams, Roaring Chicken Nuggets, which I know a team that we were looking forward to talking about, and 2 of the Altitude esports cars are not going to be taking part in race number 1.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a pretty sad thing for them. Getting into the session correctly is something that you have to do, and sadly, they weren't able to do that. I was expecting a lot from the Altitude esports teams because they looked very strong in the pre-qualifying back at Okayama a couple of weeks ago. It's sad to see them not competing. And what will sting even more is that for every single event, let's say the one that we have here in Silverstone, we have 2 rounds. That is 2 different races. So we've got 200 points for the winner right here. And if you win, there's a lot to gain. So not competing in one event means they won't be able to compete in 2 different races. That hurts even more. And they must be thinking, oh man, why did we get that correctly?
Well, qualifying is underway. The first portion, qualifying, 15 minutes. However, we do want to point out the 5 teams that have advanced straight from warm-up into Q number 2. That's the Team Heiskenveld number 78, RSR by G Performance as well, Lapsat Racing, Mini Denta, and the Apex Missers hitting some of those Apex to get themselves straight into qualifying number 2. But Sumo, this is also that GT3 class of racing, some very, very popular cars, and I am delighted to be able to say that there are teams in this series competing in both the venerable Ford GT3 and the McLaren MP4-12C.
Exactly, the variety that we've got over here, it is mind-blowing. Not only do we have the newer beasts like the Mercedes-AMG GT3 and the Ferrari 488 GT3 as well. We've got the slightly older ones. We've got the Z4, we've got the McLaren MP4-12C as long as it sounds, and this one right here, the Ford GT driven by Team CXR Project Black. And you must be wondering, hey, why in the world have they gone for this very old Ford GT? Well, let me tell you the answer. I had a chat with Paul Searle himself, and the reason why they took up this car is because his teammate didn't have any other GT3 car on the service, so they thought, hey, might as well go for the Ford. It can be decent enough, it has a lot of grunt. It may not be the most agile and nimble car in the world, but so be it. We can give it a shot. And here they are. And the best part is, Arjuna, they did look quite competitive in pre-qualifying, so there could be a chance for the good old Ford here.
And we jump on board with the Ford. My favorite detail about this car, Sumo, you'll look to the right-hand side of that steering wheel. Look at what is this sequential shifter for this car. Now,
Yes.
The modern GT3 cars have luxuries like paddle shifters, but in this the very old Ford GT, look at that shifter. It's a sequential. This is an old car, but it's got a lot of grunt, and it's going to be a very competitive car, I do think, across all of these rounds.
550 horsepower, and that is excluding the BOP, so this car on its own can do a lot of damage. And at Silverstone, I think it's going to be slightly under pressure, because although we've got lots of straights here at Silverstone, when you consider the second or third sector, when we've got corners like Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, and then we come on to this final club section, it could be a place where it loses out just a little bit too much to the newer cars like the Z4, and something even newer could be the Mercedes-AMG GT3. So for them, that is one thing to worry about, but on the whole, I think they've done a good enough job to set this car up. And these guys are artistically going to go for an alternate strategy. So watch out for them, the CXR team. They could be ones that really entertain you throughout this race.
And let's take a little bit of time to talk about the strategy. 10 minutes have been completed in this first qualifying session, so still just 5 minutes to go, and we'll await to see which are the teams that are going to make it into qualifying 2 to compete against those 5 teams that advance from the warm-up. But Sumo, you were talking to some of the Audi team drivers, and interesting to note here, given that this is a 1-hour sprint race, no fuel is really needed. No major fuel, if we were going to say that. With the driver change taking around 30 seconds in pit lane time, a lot of these teams are going to try and change tires as well.
Exactly. Do you want to have that extra benefit of having fresher tyres for a second stint? It's a GT3 sprint race. You are essentially sprinting towards the end. So if you go all out, if you try and push for every single lap, you might just need to come in and add a couple of extra liters of fuel depending on which car you're driving, because of course some are more thirsty than the other ones. Then in that case, what you can do is you can come in for your driver's change. That will take you around 30 odd seconds. The tires, that takes you around 27 seconds. So both these things can happen simultaneously. That just means that when you come in for your driver swap, you can have fresher rubber and you can go in and have a fresher fast stint, because for the next time out, you've got fresh rubber, you've got diminishing fuel, and you've got a fresh driver for the second stint as well. That is when you see all the drama kicking off, because then the battle for the positions get ever so hotter towards the end.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a very interesting battle to see how these drivers decide to play the strategy out. Do they want to push in that first stint of the race? And then obviously you have a 10-minute pit window, Sumo, so we are going to see a little bit of variation in when all of these cars come down onto pit lane. Maybe cars further back in the pack, maybe deciding to try and do an undercut, get some clean air, push a little bit harder once they get that new driver into the car. Other teams, I'm sure, if you're further out front, you're going to be waiting until that very last lap of the session that you can come down onto pit lane. And the important thing to note here, it's not based on time, Sumo, so you can't just come in when the clock hits 25 minutes or 35 minutes, with however it may be. You need to take into account your average lap time, and that is going to be how race control determines that driver change time.
Yeah, so the average lap time is, the driver change time, it's calculated by taking the average lap time from the practice session that is going on right now, 30-minute practice session before the race. And from there, they multiply it with the number of laps that you've actually competed to get the number of drive time, your actual drive time that you've got in. It's a slightly complicated system, but the eventual result is that we have a maximum cap-off of 35 minutes per driver. So one driver cannot drive for more than 35 minutes at a time in a particular race. So you've got essentially around a 5-minute window where you can either stay out for an extra lap, or you can come in an extra lap or two, that is, because Silverstone would be around 2 odd minutes. So that is when you kind of think, okay, do I go for the undercut? Do I pit in a lap early, warm up my tires early on, and get in and try to attack the other people? Or do you think, you know, I can stay out for a couple of more laps and I can have the fresher rubber towards the end? That kind of variation in the strategy can lead to the best racing that we see in this series. And that is something that I'm very keen on watching, because for certain cars, there are certain characteristics. Some behave one way, some behave the other. How will teams tinker, adapt, and manage their strategies based on the characteristics of their car? That is something that should keep all of us entertained till the very end.
It will indeed. And just a quick update on those 3 teams that we mentioned earlier, Roaring Chicken Nuggets and the 2 Altitude Esports cars. They are going to be able to compete in the second race of this meeting. They are, however, going to be starting all the way at the back. That will be a very tough round for them as they try and collect some points. It is in the rulebook, Sumo. There's been some chatter in our YouTube chat. Obviously, the Altitude car is not too happy about that decision, but it's one of the fundamental things in sim racing that you have to do. It's very much like in the real world. You can't just show up with a car that's not registered. You got to show up. You know, everything has got to be signed, sealed, and delivered to be able to compete in a racing series like this.
Exactly. That's the thing with IVRA. The administration is very strict in particular, and that's the reason why these championships that are organized by IVRA itself are so well known, because there are a stringent list of rules and regulations that you must follow, and registering on time has to be one of them. And it's a real shame, because I was looking forward to watch the Altitude Esports cars go out there and show what they're all about. But yeah, not being able to compete in one race is going to be a big punch in the gut for them. But thankfully for them, race number 2 is still available for them. So the opportunity is not completely lost. And the best part is, if these guys are fast enough, they should be able to go on in and put in a fantastic show in the second one, coming back from the back end of the field. So that is something that can be pretty interesting to watch towards the end.
Well, 1 minute and 50 seconds left in this first portion of qualifying. We ride on board with currently the second place car as he tries to make his way into provisional pole position. Not going to be fast enough that time around. 10 cars will advance into qualifying 2, so currently the last car that will make it into that second part of the session is the Archer Brothers Esports, the number 202. But something interesting, Sumo, there aren't many cars still on track at this point. It's good to see, though, in a iRacing series, which you've got all 5 cars available to the drivers. I look back to Petit Le Mans yesterday. You had 3 different classes that were effectively single mate classes. It's good to see every single car have representation in this series.
Exactly, that's the best part of all of them. Each and every single car right here has its own personality. As we see Michael Stockbauer getting it slightly loose onto the exit of this long right-hand hairpin that we've got here. So the thing is, the BMW Z4, it's more pinpoint at the top. It's a front engine car, naturally. The Audi R8, it's mid engine. You've got different styles and tactics and abilities. This one, it's a lot more pinpoint. It understays a lot more, but you can navigate the front end to be exactly where you want to. It's very stable. The Audi R8, that's a twitchy beast on its own. So this way, every single car has its own personality. And that's why the racing is going to be so much fun, because while the BMW might be good in the corners, the Audi might be beautiful on the straight. So that's why things are all merged up. That's when we get a perfect amalgamation of GT3 race cars. And that is why I love sports car racing. Different styles, different approaches, different design concepts. But the racing in the end with the BOP coming into perspective always is so much fun.
We take a look at all the cars waiting on pit lane. Something that you need to note about the IVRA qualifying system is that once you come back down into pit lane, you cannot leave again. So 15 minutes, you have to decide how you want to come out. Look at that queue of cars. And interesting to note right now, Sumo, that Ford up in provisional third position. It's great to see as the checkered flag now flies in queue number 1.
Indeed, lots of diversity being shown here, and that Ford clearly coming up and saying, hey, I may be a grandpa among all you cars, but I've certainly got the pace in the bank.
So there's going to be a 5-minute gap between qualifying 1 and qualifying 2. Let's run down then the cars that have set qualifying times. Solar Vision racing on the provisional pole position with a 1:59.687. RSR by Jeep Performance number 55 right behind them, 2.5 tenths of a second in second, with CXR Project Black, that Ford in provisional third place. Then you got some of the other cars: No Nonsense Racing, Laps at Racing Team number 235, N-Race Esports, Pro Driver Esports Black, Shipsky Racing, the Team Heiskeveld number 48, and Archer Brothers Esports number 202, the last car going to advance into qualifying 2. The rest of your cars: 4 Elements Racing Team Blue, the Apex Missers number 185, FBP Racing, the 488 racing that Ferrari 488 GTE. Then you got Team Vikings Midgard, a little Avengers reference there, I guess. Xanady Motorsports, NJB Performance, Kassar Sim Racing Hydra. Then in 18th position you got Pro Driver Esports, the number 58. There are other cars that have set times. You got 27 of them at this time. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to show you the qualifying graphic for them at this time. 3 minutes to go. But Sumo, I think there's something that you have to consider here in this qualifying 1 and qualifying 2 system. The way it's going to work now is that all the cars that have set times in Q1 are going to have to better their time in Q2 to actually advance in terms of the lap time. Q1 times and Q2 times get aggregated to set the qualifying grid.
Indeed, it's not over and done yet for all the cars that have qualified from Q1 into Q2. The real challenge begins right here, because not only do they have to solidify their grid position right now, they also have to come in and make sure that the aggregate lap time is good enough, because if that is not the case, you could end up losing some qualifying positions. It may be a slightly confusing qualifying format, but eventually the race control have decided that it's the best way to go forward and establish a fair level pegging field for the grid. Well, I can't wait to see how this plays out. It's the first time I'm going to commentate on a format like this one too, so I have a lot of things that I want to check out for myself, but in the end I'm sure it's going to be something very entertaining for all of us to watch.
It will indeed, and I'm just a little bit disappointed, Sumo, right now. The sole McLaren in the grid, down in 26th place. We're not going to see it out in queue number 2. I was looking forward to seeing that fire-breathing McLaren. It won at the Spa 24 Hours this year in the hands of VRS Coanda, so it's clearly a capable machine. Just requires a little bit more wrangling to be able to get it around the track safely.
Yeah, that McLaren is a beast of a car, trust me. It's really twitchy when you drive it. It's not really the easiest car in the world to maneuver and master, unlike, of course, the BMW Z4 GT3. Different design philosophies, of course, coming into perspective, but the important thing with the McLaren is that it can normally go around a lap longer in terms of fuel, because it has a longer fuel tank, and that could eventually become a defining factor of why people have chosen the McLaren here in the IVRA GT Sprint Series. Again, lots of things to consider, and eventually they all bottle up and can produce a stunning race right here at Silverstone.
And we are at this brand new layout of Silverstone, introduced a few years ago into the iRacing.com service. It eliminates some of the more classic corners in the Silverstone track, Sumo, but I think the interesting thing here is going to be that start. Everyone filing around those brand new club sections. As they file down onto the race start too wide, we often see some chaos there. I'm hoping that all of these cars are going to be able to get through that section cleanly.
It's a tough one. It's a tough section, that one. It's a quick right, left, right before we bottle out towards the arena section down in the middle. And traditionally in Formula 1, we've seen quite a few drivers crash out over there because of the tight and twisty nature of the circuit. Now, hopefully in GT3 cars, the drivers are a lot more respectful. They're able to give each other a lot more room. And that is why we won't see a lot of carnage. But again, that's a big hopefully. You never know with these kind of races, with such a big grid, anything can happen. And if they keep it clean, we should be in for a treat of a race. And otherwise, it'll just be a bit of carnage early on with a few cars forcefully having to retire or having to limp around with a lot of damage.
And just 10 seconds to go until qualifying 2 starts. I am getting word from race control that there are 2 cars that broke that pit lane rule, Sumil, and are not going to be advancing into qualifying 2. Car number 52 and 24 is the word from race control. So that will be the No Nonsense Racing number 52 and the number 24 Pro Driver Esports Black.
A big blow for them. It's going to be a big penalty coming their way because, of course, it was quite clearly mentioned in the sporting regulations that you cannot leave the pit lane once you enter it once, and these guys have made mistakes, so naturally the penalty will follow. But here then, qualifying number 2 has started, and the drivers are out on the track. Let's see what they can do here. It's the first of its kind series that we are seeing on iRacing over here. Let's see what the drivers can do to make up in this second session, because of course the aggregate timing can come into perspective and change things for the better.
And we take a look at the Apex Missers number 186. This is a team that had one of their cars narrowly miss out on coming into this qualifying 2 session. This 186 making it in by virtue of being the top 5 cars in the warm-up session. They'll be hoping to hit a few Apexes here today in that BMW C4. Getting a little bit loose on this warm-up lap though. They got an Audi chasing them down behind. That's Solar Vision number 32. They have the provisional pole position lap time as well. So I wonder if a little bit of pressure going to be applied by the 32 or Sumo, the potential for some draft to be used.
Yeah, drafting can come into perspective here. We've got 2 rather long straights at Silverstone in the form of the Wellington Straight and also the Hangar Straight. So if these guys can use the draft, they will get a significant boost in the straight line speed. But the problem is that draft becomes dirty air when you come towards the corners, and you can have the phenomenon of aero wash coming into perspective and the car understeering horribly. Right now the Audi is chasing behind, and the Audi can be a bit of a handful at times in the quicker corners. So for the drivers to manage that, it's going to be a bit tricky. But when you add dirty air into perspective, it becomes even harder to do so. So again, it's a double-edged sword of sorts. If you can manage it in the straights, you also have a downside in the corners for the same.
And 32 just backing off a little bit, giving himself that little bit of extra clean air as they round the club section to start their first flying laps in qualifying 2. We're going to come across this pit straight, head down into Abbey, and then that very tricky turn number 1 and 2 complex, trying to carry as much speed as they can, clip as much of that inside curb as well on the right hand side before you set up on the left hand side of the track to head down into the braking zone at Village. Once again, you're going to get as close to the right hand side, get all the way to that right anti-cut curb if you can. Car understeering a little bit through this section as you go through the loop, as you try and carry as much momentum as you can get onto the Wellington Straight. And Sumo, I think this is one of those passing opportunities that we're going to see throughout the lap. This run down into the Wellington Straight and the braking zone into Brooklands.
Exactly. If you get a good run off the exit of the arena section, you can really line up a move around here. But going side by side through this section of corners is something so hard to do. You've got to be so delicate. And now you've got to line up your apex. It feels like a long corner, this one. You have to power out at the right moment. Avoid the AstroTurf on the exit. Your wheels can spin around at times, using every single inch of road as we come to the national pitch stretch. And then the beautiful right-hand corner. This one, it is such a quick turn. And if you get a good run, you can actually make a move at Cops. And then Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel.
You head through the famous Maggots and Beckett section, carrying as much speed as you can. You want to scrub it off at the last possible moment down into third gear as you exit now onto this hangar straight. And this will be, I think, Sumo, the second major passing opportunity that we see. We will also see, I think, some brave moves into Cops at the start of the race, but definitely those two main straights are going to be prime positions to try and draft and make a move down the inside.
Indeed, these drivers will have to be very cautious about the track because it may seem wide, it can bottle out and narrow out in certain cases. And now we come towards the very critical Vale and Club section. It feels very slow and very arduous at times, but if you line up and get a good exit, as Alexander Walton seems to be getting right now, you can come across and round off one rather quick lap of Silverstone.
That was one lap on board, and I don't actually think that last lap was that quick, a 2:06.19, so they didn't actually better that lap time in qualifying one. Left-hand side of your screen, you will see the times as they all come in. We're waiting for some of these cars on track to put in some faster lap times. I'm just trying to look for the Apex Missers number 186 just in front of the Audi that we were running on board in. Currently their best lap time, take a look on the bottom left corner, 2:04.31, so they are almost a full second off that provisional pole position lap time that was set in qualifying one. So some work to do here. One thing to note though, Sumo, the time in session, if I'm looking correctly, is 2:25 p.m. I wonder if the track temperature has potentially gotten a little bit warmer in between qualifying 1 and 2.
And naturally, if that happens, the grip levels falls off because the tires, well, they just start to wear out a lot more quickly in that case, and then the drivers won't be able to put down as much pace and speed as possible. As a result, the lap times may be faster, and the drivers may not just be able to improve on their lap times, and that can be a big hampering factor in qualifying.
It is indeed, and we watch the BMW sling its way through Maggots and Beckett's once again. I'm trying to just take a look though, Sumo, because right now, the fastest car in the warm-up session, the Team Heiskenveld number 78, driven by Andrej Ratrovic, has not made its way out onto track. They may be just waiting until the last possible minute, and as I say that, in fact, what perfect timing. Mats Thors Hunsfeld has just gotten into that car, and there you can see coming off the pit lane, they waited as long as they could, Sumo. So clearly that number 78 has a plan for this qualifying session. The last 8.5 minutes or so going to be where they try and put that fastest lap of the session down.
And they'll be hoping for a lot of clean air, because at this circuit, when every single driver in qualifying 2 is going to be out there trying to set their lap times, traffic can at times become a major problem because, of course, you want clean air. You want to be undisturbed, undisrupted in your qualifying lap times. The Team Heiskenveld seem to have found the perfect slot. They've got another Audi right in front, but I think they're far off, and that won't be a major problem when they come into the qualifying runs. Naturally, you want clean air, you want open air to go for your lap time, and now it seems like for them, going on a bit later is the philosophy that they're looking out for.
And look who's just moved into provisional pole position. It's the Ford, driven by Paul Searle and CXR Project Black, the number 383. A 1:59.661 is the provisional pole position time. Solar Vision Racing with a 1:59.682, just 200ths of a second behind. Qualifying graphics are going to update hopefully in just a few moments, but Sumo, the gaps at the top of your field right now, absolutely close, and I'm just waiting for that number 78 to come and put a lap time in. I think he may be starting to worry a little bit. The lap times at the top of your order really starting to look fast now.
Oh, it's absolutely mind-blowing the kind of gaps that we've got right now. With Paul Searle currently in provisional pole position and only 200ths of a second behind, we've got Alexander Walton in the Solar Vision Racing car. Oh man, this sort of thing, if we get to see this in the race, it's going to be absolutely intense. And the drama is just building up for qualifying as well. This, folks, right here promises to be an absolutely intense race today.
And all 10 cars appear to still be on the track right now. So just remember, once you come down into pit lane after finishing a qualifying run, you cannot go back out on track. That's why that number 78 waited till the last 8 minutes to head out there. Just getting word from race control as well. Those two cars, the number 52 and 24, that broke that rule, came out of pit lane multiple times. They will have to start from pit lane, Sumo. That is going to be a very costly mistake. However, I'm just wondering if we're expecting the kind of chaos that I am at the first corner of this race. Potentially, the pit lane start might help them out a little bit.
Who knows, it could be a blessing in disguise for them because we expect lots of drama in the first couple of corners, and especially so in the arena section where it all bottles out. So perhaps starting from the pit lane may not be too bad. Well, again, they've got to do the dirty work and make up all the positions midway through the race, but if they've got the belief in the car, it might just be something rather helpful, because if they finish somewhere in the mid-pack, they can start and get a very good starting position for the second race. Who knows, maybe a blessing in disguise in the end.
It might be, and we're watching the number 17 lap at racing car. This highest placed Ferrari as it stands right now. The top 5 cars, Ford at the front, 2 Audis, then 2 BMWs, and we're waiting for some of the other cars to potentially show some of their pace. Still waiting for the number 78 as he works his way on his first time lap. You can see at the top left of your screen as well, Mini Danita Racing has moved up into 3rd position with a 1:59.868. So we have 4 cars that are currently underneath that 2-minute barrier. Let's ride on board though with the Team Heiskeveld car as he tries to become the next car to be under 2 minutes. So here he comes through the club section, a 1:54 as it stands. It's looking good, I think, to get under the 2-minute barrier in his first hot lap. What's it going to be? Wait for the lap time to update. A 1:59.653 provisional, and that puts him into provisional pole position by 8 thousandths of a second. Look at those gaps. Just 300ths of a second currently separating your top 3 cars, Sumo.
Well, that just reminds me of Sebastian Vettel from his Red Bull Racing days, when he used to be the last lone wolf, coming out very late in qualifying and setting the absolute best lap time. But the gap, Arjuna, there's barely anything to split it out. The Ford of Paul Searle, he is currently only 8 thousandths of a second behind the Team Heiskeveld Audi R8 GT3 car. Man, oh man, oh man, even in qualifying, these guys are turning up the intensity levels up to 11 on the dial.
It is indeed, and just a reminder, live timing is available. Head over to timing71.org. Fantastic live timing system. Radio Le Mans announced that they're going to be using that for all of their events in Sumo. If it's good enough for Radio Le Mans, it's good enough for here over at RaceSpot TV.
Well, it's good enough anywhere in the world, considering the kind of quality of the Radio Le Mans broadcasts. And these guys have been doing things for over decades now, I mean 2 or 3 decades easily, and they're absolute professionals. And we also do much of the same here in the sim racing world. If it works for them, it works for every single person, regardless of whatever series it is. And time for a bit of a replay. Now, something has happened with the N-Race Esports car. On the entry, this section right here in the middle sector, man, all the way from Brooklands to Luffield, it can be pretty tricky, and the N-Race Esports car just braking and turning at the same time, and from the looks of things, missing up their rear end.
Yeah, you can see there was a slower car that they were trying to get around as well. I wonder if they just got a little bit worried as they headed down into that corner complex, but there you can see they're going to pull off the track right now, get out of the way, hope for those tires cool down a little bit more, and they got back up to speed. They are still lapping right now, the 199. They're in provisional 11th place, so on the edge of the top 10. Not a horrible qualifying performance, Sumo, but starting at that position, you're really in the danger zone, if you will call it that. If anything happens in front of you, you don't really have too much time to react, and obviously at the front of your field, it's always crazy and chaotic, as we now have 2 minutes and 40 seconds left in qualifying.
Yes, indeed. It can be pretty hard to dodge trouble early on in this race. It's a wide circuit, yes, that can be a factor, and in certain places you do have runoff. So if that's a consolation, if anything, if you see something, you can actually run wide here and there, but still, that isn't enough. Sometimes at the start, there can be so much drama that you have no time at all to dodge. And the GT3 cars, as nimble as they may be at times, it is still next to impossible to avoid contact in that cases. Who knows, we may end up seeing the best save in the world, or we may end up seeing the biggest crash as well.
Well, if you are looking at the left-hand side of your screen, Team Heiskeveld number 78 now a 1:59.490. The number 78 really showing its strength right now, out in pole position by almost 0.2 of a second. And important to note, just 304 cars still circulating on track. We're watching the number 78 as he heads down into Maggots and Beckett. The number 56 RSR by G Performance is also still out on track, as well as the number 199 N-Race Esports. Shipsky Racing and Archer Brothers Esports as well, 222 and 202. The last cars on track right now. And Sumil, the number 78, well, it had the fastest warm-up lap as well. Now showing its strength in qualifying. They're really a strong team across many series. And Matt Stork-Huntsfeld showing that strength right now. He's going to be the man to beat. However, if he's able to hold on to this position in race number 1, he's going to have it all to do in race number 2, starting at the back of the field.
Well, that's not going to be something that intimidates them, because for them, they always want the best result any way possible. If they win race number 1, they're surely going to have the confidence to go out there and put in a stunning result in race number 2, even if they have to start all the way at the shallow end of the field. Right now, they have bettered their qualifying lap. They've gone even faster and have put a little bit of a gap between themselves and the CXR Project Black 8 team. That just shows you the level of confidence that they are building up, coming in towards the end and clocking in some conkers of a lap time.
So 30 seconds still remain in qualifying. All these cars will have an opportunity to finish the lap they are on, but I'm not expecting any of these cars to be able to better the lap time. The only cars still on track, the 78, the number 56, and the number 199, and we're watching the number 78 as he goes very slow. Let's take a look then at the RSR by G Performance car as he comes through Maggots and Beckett's, and well, he's also seemingly on a relatively cool lap at this point. What about the N-Race Esports number 199? They're heading out now into Copse Corner. Let's take a look on board. Another car going a little bit slowly, so we're going to wait for a clock to finish in qualifying. All the cars have set qualifying times. Just a few minutes to get to the grid order. Sumil, a 1-hour race. Mandatory driver change. Before we look at the grid, what are you expecting?
Early on, I'm expecting a lot of chaos and drama, as we have spoken about enough while previewing this race. But when we get to the middle, when we get to the really fun part of the race, strategy can come into perspective and drivers aren't necessarily going to save. So there's going to be non-stop action right towards the end with some proper drama in store for us.
Proper drama indeed, and hopefully no one can get caught out by that tricky drive time regulations. The maximum drive time in each of these two races is going to be 35 minutes. And as we watch the number 199 head down into pit lane, he's the last car on track, just waiting for the session to roll over and for us to be able to show you the qualifying grid. So it looks like we're still going to be waiting a further 60 or 80 seconds before we can show you that qualifying order. Sumil, we talk about all of these different car classes as well. The Ford GT currently in second place. Which of these cars would you drive if you have the choice while we just wait for the qualifying order to be available?
Well, frankly, I'm a big fan of the BMW Z4 GT3. It's a very stable car in the corners that you can make you drive your way, and in the straights, it's a proper beast. Now, depending on how you set it up, the pace can vary with the other cars, and some drivers prefer to have something a lot more edgy, something a lot more twitchy and nervous like the Audi R8. But personally, I'm not really the best driver in the world, so I like to have the confidence that the BMW Z4 gives me. What about you, Arjun? I presume you're going to be a bit of a fan of the Mercedes, isn't it?
Well, it's the car that I've driven the most, and it's also the car I hate to drive the most. It's a big boat. It's very stable, and it's a car I competed in a SCO GT season with as well. But while we wait, let's take a look at the point structure for today's race. You'll take a look, see points awarded from 200 for first all the way down to 40 for fourth place. Cars do have to be classified in order to gain championship points, and that will apply for both races. So a maximum of 400 points is available to all of the teams, but the qualifying grid has been set. Let's go ahead and take a look at the order. Team Heiskenveld, the number 78 with a 159.490, takes the pole position from the CXR Project Black Ford number 383 by almost 0.2 of a second. Row number 2, it's Solar Vision Racing and Alexander Walton with Mini Danita Racing and Michael Schlacks lining up next to him. RSR by G Performance number 55 in row number 3 with the Apex Missers number 186. Lapset Racing Team 17, that's the first Ferrari in your grid order here today. Next to them is going to be RSR by G Performance number 56. Edge of the top 10, No Nonsense Racing number 52, and Lapset Racing team number 235 with the N-Race Esports BMW in 11th and Pro Driver Esports Black. They're going to have to line up from the pit lane. Don't forget though, as a result of coming out of qualifying from the pit lane multiple times. A second Team Heiskeveld number 48 car back in the weeds in 13th place with Shipsy Racing in 14th. Archer Brothers Esports, the 202 in 15th with 4 Elements Racing Team Blue in 16th place. The second Apex Missers number 185, that BMW in 17th with FBP Racing and Evan Dietzel in 18th. Team Vikings number 777 and Xanity Racing line up on the edge of the top 20, and we'll scroll through the rest of your grid just very quickly. You'll see a few names that are familiar here. Kassar Sim Racing back in 22nd with Mayus Sim Speed Performance as well, a pure Audi team in 24th place. Got Team Oblivion Racing, FBP Racing, Lapset Racing team, a third car for them in this series back in the weeds in 27th. Awesome Motorsport Group in 28th. Kassar Sim Racing Leo, Estate Coffee.exe Esports Neon Green. That is the McLaren to watch out for in this field, with Rogers A51 in 32nd place. Last few rows of the grid, Altitude Esports, Roaring Chicken Nuggets, and that second car. None of these cars will be taking part in today's race. They did register incorrectly for the session, but they are starting to roll off right now from this one. It's a short pace lap, and as they head down into the club section, that Porsche 911 safety car off down onto pit lane, leaving the field in control of the number 78 Team Heiskeveld. It's going to be an interesting start here. Look at all the cars as they struggle to form up down in towards this section. How early is the number 78 going to go? There is a designated start zone that they have to wait for. You can see the car still struggling to form up a little bit further back in this group, but green flag up in the air. Number 78 going to wait. You can see a few false starters already further back in your pack, but they're going to manage to get away. Green, here we go. Green flag up in the air and down into turn number 1. Everybody struggling to stay single file. There is already an incident. That's the RSR BMW being turned by the Lapset Racing car. But as they head down into the arena complex, everyone else has managed to get through that car safely. No other incidents. You can see struggling a little bit there. They go too wide around this section. But other than that one incident, Sumo, they managed to get through safely.
Well, that's a big silver lining for this start, but the RSR Esports team will be furious. You always expect drama in the first lap, and they've been at the receiving end of all of that as they get turned around. At the top, the Team Heiskeveld 78 car still maintains their lead, and we saw Pulsar in the CXR car almost losing out to P number 2, but Alexander Walton still stays behind. Right now, we are seeing cars on the Luffield section of the track, the middle sector, and it's the second Heiskeveld car getting slightly leery on the exit.
Yeah, that second car already up 2 positions up into 9th. They're on a charge. They want to join their teammate at the front of your field. You can see action further back as well. Look at that, too wide into Cops. Does not work out, and Shipsky Racing is going to hold the position from 4 Element in the Ferrari. So they now head down in towards Maggots and Beckett's for the first time. The number 24 Pro Driver Esports Black is that last car that's come out of pit lane right now. They are a ways down the order. As we head through Maggots and Beckett's once again single filed out. Let's take a look then at that replay on the start. What happened to RSR Performance? They got turned around by the Lapset Racing team. Here comes the replay though, and it was an interesting start. There you can see the Lapset Racing team looking to the outside, and they're, I think, going to go just a little bit deep into the corner, and they get caught out by the pack in front of them. Fortunately though, you can see now that rejoin from the BMW. He waited for everybody to go past. No danger as a result.
Well, that's some good driving by the RSR Esports team, realizing that they don't have to go in very early on because a big penalty could be on their way for an unsafe rejoin. But the gentlest of taps on the first corner can lead to a spin this big. And the RSR Esports team, it's almost like they have to start all the way from the back from the very first corner. Luckily for them, it's a long race. And what's happened to the Corsair Sim Racing team, Leo? So Aaron R. Eccles is there. Cops corner.
And
that's another Ferrari at the back.
There's another Ferrari. Let's take another look at this replay. It's the FBP 458 who makes contact with the Mayer Sim Racing Audi and hard into the tire barrier for them. That's going to be some significant damage to the rear end. Let's see if we can get a better look at this one. There was a lot of chaos as they came around that first corner for the second time. They managed to get through it fairly cleanly the first. Here comes a better look at the replay. Down to the inside they went. And I think they just got caught out by that incident in front of them. If we get an onboard look with them, I think they were just reacting to the incident in front of them as it evolved. Here, we'll try and get a look. This is actually coming through Cop's corner, I do believe. We're riding on board with the 458 Audi. He's going to take a look to the inside as he sees the other Audi spinning out in front of him. Oh, he loses it as well. That is just a very, very unfortunate one there.
That's a very unfortunate one. The second Audi that actually hit the FBP car, they went slightly loose on the entry to Cops. They were on the outside line. The Ferrari had to react to the other Audi spinning out in front of them, and as a result, they just got punted over and about. And man, the result is slightly hurting, and they will have to nurse around this damage all the way through. In fact, when they go to the pit lane, it'll be far worse for them because iRacing doesn't care. They will forcefully get back. Look at the CSR Racing car trying to get the move on from the Hurstingwell car for the lead. They looked down the inside line. They just got the door shut off at the right moment. Boy, things are getting spicy here.
That Ford wants the position. Now he's having to defend from the Audi behind. Solar Vision up into second place. They're going to hang it around the outside. What a fantastic move there from Alexander Walter. He moves himself up into second place. And look at the chasing pack behind now. We'll get a replay of that move actually as well. There has been another car that's off into the tires. Let's try and just take a look at them. That's Shipsky Racing, the number 222. So lots of action. This is exactly what we expected here in the IVRA GT Sprint Series. Here we go down in towards that last corner. They're trying to squeeze the car on the inside. They get a little bit of a hip check there. And then what happens through the second part of the corner? Contact with the Ferrari. And so close to being collected there by multiple cars coming up behind.
Just got collected with some side contact. And that BMW is known to be stable, but when you get a contact like that one, it never really pays off, and the Shipsky Racing team has to do it all over again. Pointing in the wrong direction now. Have they got a safe rejoin? Thankfully they do go back in the cross and come back very safely. But man, lots of drama and carnage going on already. Only 5 minutes into this race. It's got 55 more minutes, guys. Calm down. You've got to stay in the end.
Yeah, let's finally go ahead then and take a look at that pass for P number 2 as well. Here we go. It was Solar Vision down the inside, a late move. And Paul Searle had to get out of the way a little bit to react. And that Ford Grunt down the straight is very strong, but through the corners a little bit weaker. That older car, and Alexander Walton taking full advantage of that. Let's jump back to the live pictures though. Alexander Walton continues to hold on to second place, but the number 78 is starting to just extend the gap now. Gap up to 0.7 of a second, and there are fights throughout this field. The top 7 cars starting to break away a little bit. They're separated by just a few seconds, and then there's a gap of a further 3 seconds between N-Race Esports and Lapset Racing. So this front group of cars, there's a car around in the background as well. That's one of the Apex Missers cars. They seem to have missed an Apex quite badly. We'll see if we can get a replay of this one.
So it appears to be already spinning around for the Apex Missers car. They just seem to have a bad entry to that corner at the end. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is going to be Stowe cornered towards the end. So they come in and they just almost tap the Audi and get spun around at the back, losing the front end. And now you have to compromise. You have to have a bit of a compromise here. Do you want more top speed or do you want more front end grip? Clearly the BMW not having enough front end grip as they go past the Audi, and they spin around and they are almost losing a position to the Ferrari once again. These are live pictures, mind you, and they're going wheel to wheel again.
And that's the second Apex Missers car as well. So the 2 Apex cars now together on the track, and the BMW fends off the charge from the Ferrari behind the Lapset Racing car down the inside. He's going to get the move done, I do believe. But that BMW's got the inside line for the next corner. This double left-hand Apex. There's contact made. The Ferrari gets shoved off the track a little bit. And now the Team Heiskenveld number 48 is trying to get involved in the action as well, down in towards Cop's corner. Who's going to have the better line? Who's got the better run off the corner? Ferrari still around the outside, looks to have the position. And that Team Heiskenveld number 48 going to slot back in. Take a look at more action further back in your field. There was another incident that happened for an Audi. This was for the number 777 Team Vikings car, and this is through, I believe, turn number 1. A little bit too much of that inside curb and spinning into that pit lane exit area.
Oh man, for Team Vikings, it's going all wrong. We know that the Audi's twitchy, it's nervous, it's very eager. And when you overdrive it, that can happen. Now the CXR car is trying to attack the Solar Vision Racing car for P number 2, who is in turn trying to attack for the lead on the Helsingborg car. We are now down towards the club section, the final few corners of the circuit. Ideally, you would expect a move being made heading towards Village Corner if Paul Searle can get a very good run. Look at the Ford, look at how he's twitching and fighting away the car. It's a fairly old one, not as sophisticated as the newer ones. Now we come to the first corner, trailing through at the back. The Solar Vision car seems to be getting a good run, but is it good enough for a move? From the looks of things, it isn't for now.
And we ride on board with the venerable old Ford. It's still new enough, apparently, Sumal, to have that rear view camera. If you're taking a look at the middle of your screen right now, but down on towards the back stretch they go. This is the Wellington Straight. This is one of those passing opportunities that we talked about. And Paul Searle has got a good run off the corner. He takes a look to the inside. Alexander Walton's going to go to the inside to defend the move. Is Paul Searle going to try it around the outside? He is, and this is going to become the inside now for the next portion of Luffield. Has he got the move alongside? He's not alongside enough. And unfortunately, he's not going to have enough overlap to make that happen. You can see, though, now the gaps are starting to form. Team Heiskeveld 78 is under pressure, but they now lead by 10 seconds to that 10th place car. The gaps are starting to open up, and everything is starting to settle down. 10 minutes gone on the clock. We're heading towards the pit window opening. 15 minutes to go before you can make your one and only driver change for this race. And we wait to see who blinks first. Maybe it's going to be one of these cars in the leading pack trying to make an undercut work. But as they head through Magus and Beckett, seems to be all clean in the top 3 right now.
All clean, but the question is still, when can they actually keep it all clean? Because from the looks of things, Paul Searle had a beautiful opportunity to get one up over the Solar Vision Racing car, trying to send one down the inside early on, but just did not have enough pace and could not get the car to get the power down as early as possible, heading out of Luffield Corner. Then again, though, there is another chance coming up rather soon, and it was a proper draft as we saw on the Wellington Straight. All the cars were getting so close to each other, they almost made contact, mind you. And when the cars are under the draft, they get so loose, and managing them and just keeping it on the draft, keeping them on the track and not making contact with the other car is an achievement in itself. And now it's the Laps Racing team who had contact early on with the RSR one, trying to chase another BMW, as it's the Estate Coffee Company going side by side and spinning around.
There was an incident for this car. Let's take a look at the replay. It was down at the end of the hangar straight for the number 411. It's all by himself as well. No cars around him. They're going to do this, and the rear end of the car just steps around. And you can see another incident avoided for one of the Mayer SimSpeed cars as well. They must just be thinking, Sumo, why are we getting so unlucky? We seem to always be catching these incidents.
Well, they just seem to be like magnets right here. And it's the Mini Denita team who have closed up to Paul Searle. So that Ford GT has lost some time, and the Mini Denita team is now under pressure from behind as well. This, folks, is for the top 5. All of the cars are just so closely bunched up, and Team RSR, the second RSR car, wants a piece of that cake here.
And we ride on board with the number 55, who is applying all kinds of pressure to Mini Denita in front of him. Michael Strohberger is the driver right now. You can see, I think that was the Ford in front running a little bit wide through Copse Corner. Remember, you can't take too many incident points there. You can also get a slowdown if you run too far wide, but you can also see riding on board with the 5th place car, the gap that Paul Searle has managed to lose to those front 2 cars in front. The cars in front really starting to pull away now, and Solar Vision looking to once again try and get a move down in towards the corner. You can also see behind RSR Performance going to the outside as Solar Vision looked to the inside for a second, but nothing doing there. RSR is going to try and hang it around the outside of the number 14. They're going to have the drive off the corner, I do believe, and look at that. What a pass for that BMW, Sumo, now up into 4th place and looking to get to work on the Ford in front.
Well, the RSR Esports car, they have made a major move heading towards speed number 4, and with momentum on their side, they have one certain CXR Black Ford GT in their vision. What can they do now? They're fresh off a move as a racing driver. This is when your adrenaline is pumping. This is where you have to calm yourself down, because after making a move, you can drown in your pride and make that one critical mistake that leads you to losing the position that you just won. What can RSR do now with that BMW? They've got a top speed advantage over the Ford, and in the back, the Laps Racing team has to fight away. It's a proper BMW sandwich, and the Ferrari is the meat of it, it seems.
There is a lot of action throughout your field as well. This is the battle on the edge of the top 10. 3 cars scrapping it out. And like you say, a BMW sandwich. You can see the Apex Misters number 186 has pulled away a little bit from this battle. But as we stand right now, look at the number 58. Looks to the inside of the Ferrari. And the Ferrari's actually going to give him the spot. This is something that's part of GT racing. Sometimes you just need to give the position up and wait to fight another day. But it looks like the Ferrari went for an over-under. What a defensive move there from the 235. But that BMW with the drive off the corner, the grunt that car has, is going to try and win the drag race down into Cop's corner. The Ferrari on the inside is going to concede the position. But for 58 Pro Driver Esports and Jose Arias, I do believe that's his name, doing a fantastic job to get up into 11th place now.
But you can't doubt the Ferrari for not really losing out, not really keeping the position, but you can't doubt them for their intent. The way they fought the BMW was something very admirable, and they'll be trying to get something back up once we come towards the village section next time out. We take a look at the replay. He lets him go past very easily, but this is not done yet because the Ferrari realizes if I get a good exit, if I get a more tighter line, I can fight back. So he puts his nose in the middle, gets a good exit, but the BMW with its power advantage just taking good use of that. And now we're back in the real pictures and the Ferrari has fallen out, it seems.
And there's been another incident. Let's see if we can get a replay of this. It involves two cars that have already been involved in the wars, and Thomas Cope almost manages to avoid Jason LaBarberina in the 411 Estate Coffee car, but unfortunately they're nowhere to go. Let's see if we can get an onboard look at this down in towards Cop's corner. The Ferrari loose in front, and the Audi actually managed to lose it all by himself, Sumo, getting too much onto that inside curb.
Yeah, he tried to dodge the Ferrari and lost it all by himself by getting too much on the inside curb, as you mentioned. And that Audi on itself is not very sure-footed. It's not very planted in comparison to other cars, and it's a proper dicey one to drive. When you have another car to dodge and then you go on the inside curb, the result of that is quite simple. You have a spinning car, and that Audi, in fact, also had a lot of rear wheel damage, with its rear wing looking quite like Sebastian Vettel's Egyptian dance. So they'll be facing some trouble as the Ford, almost got touched around by the RSR BMW. I told you that as racing drivers, your adrenaline, can tip over after making a move, and the RSR car tried to get something on the Ford, tapped him from behind, and almost lost it.
Yeah, let's take a look on board. You can see the number 55 is really on a charge right now. He wants to get up into a podium position. The Ford going a little bit wide through the corner. The 55 sticking his nose down the inside, and there is definite contact between the two there, and they are both lucky to have gotten away with that one, Sumo.
Oh, that BMW is pretty lucky to keep it all handy and clean after that. It just tightened off on the exit of that corner as it normally does, and that BMW may be more sure-footed, but still keeping it clean on an incident like that can be a challenge. Now then, the leader is under pressure. Team Helsingveld 78, who have been by far and away the most comprehensive team so far right here, are under pressure from one certain Solar Vision team. Well, they've got the vision quite clear. It is 4P number 1.
Well, interesting just to note here, Sumo, as now 5 extra minutes have gone from the clock. We work towards that first pit stop window of this race weekend. That number 32 has been putting on some pressure, but has also, I think, been doing a little bit of fuel saving, just backing off the corner a little bit, giving the room to the number 78 in front. And there you can see, great shot off the rear of the number 78. The top 5 cars currently separated by 2.5 seconds. Mini Danita Racing and that number 14 really struggling to hold on now. As you look at Paul Searle taking a look to the inside, maybe trying to defend from RSR behind, but look at the send from the Solar Vision car. All of these drivers seemingly with slightly different lines, and that's producing some fantastic racing out at the front.
And the interesting part is, Arjuna, it was a very sustained send by the Solar Vision racing car. They saw that the chance was limited, and it wasn't like a last gasp move when you break, 20 odd meters away from your braking point. It was managed, and as a result, they were close by on the exit as well. They just didn't lose all their ground. So naturally, they are gaining enough to be confident enough to make a move around here at Maggots Beckett's. No, they don't. They almost got it done over here, but they have to stick behind on the Helsingveld car, and now CXR is under pressure from RXR. Queue up round number 2. Ring the bell. This battle is going to go up once again at the Hanger Straight.
And Laps Up Racing, that number 17 car, feeling the pressure from 4 Elements behind them as well. Those are the 2 Ferraris in the back of your shot. Solar Vision, again, looking to the inside. Let's take a look, though. Laps Up Racing is going to defend the inside line. I don't think 4 Element Racing really felt they wanted to try and hang it around the outside right now, but they've got the Apex Misser number 186, who is on a fight back of his own. Here comes the move from 4 Element, looks to the outside. Is he going to try and hold it around? He's got the overlap. He looks to the inside as they come around this last corner. Who's going to win the drag race here as they come to the start-finish line once again? That yellow car hits that inside curb and loses a lot of momentum. And now the Apex Misters BMW looks to the inside going down into turn number 1. And from fighting for potentially 7th on track, the number 7 car shuffled back to 9th.
Opportunism at its best by the BMW. You see a move, you go for a move, and that Ferrari now just has to start it behind and wonder where they got things wrong. In this situation, you have to calm yourself down, get your thoughts nice and composed, but 4 people who won't have their thoughts composed are the 4 leaders with the Hurstingwald car, doing a very good job at the top, but Solar Vision not letting them go so easily. It's almost as if they've tied a rope behind and they are maintaining a consistent gap. Now then, RSR Esports realize that this particular corner, Luffield, is where they made the mistake last time. They are making things a lot more sustained, a lot more controlled, as there is a send for the lead almost. Wow, Solar Vision looking, lunging, but staying behind. Team Hurstingwald must be feeling the pressure from behind now.
He's had a few of those looks and fortunately hasn't committed to any of them yet. They may end in tears, and we're only 20 minutes into the 2 hours of racing action. Pulsar getting a little bit loose on the entry into this complex now. That's going to set up potentially RSR by G Performance to have a look down at the end of this straight in towards Stowe. Look at the drive the BMW has got. He's managed to get a very, very good run off the exit of the corner, but Paul Searle in the middle of the track forces the BMW to look to the outside, and he's going to have to back off the corner. And look at now, Paul Searle is already closing up once again to the back of the Audis in front. The BMW with another great drive off the corner. He looks to the inside for a second, but some great respectful racing in this top 4 right now. Paul Searle going a little bit deep once again. If anyone's feeling the pressure here, it's Paul in that number 383 Ford, Sumil.
It is Paul Searle who's having to defend quite a bit. His Ford also is a very aged car. You won't feel that on the sim naturally because the parts won't be clunking around as much. But naturally you have a car so quick right behind, that BMW being so certain. It can understeer at times, but if you know how to drive it, it can just feel perfect. Paul Searle now has just around a 10th of a gap. Here comes the BMW. It seems to have a very good run on the exit onto the backstretch now.
And let's jump on board onto the number 55 as he comes down the Wellington Straight. Is he going to have a look here in towards Brooklyn's corner? He's not close enough. He's going to give up under braking, but potentially set up the move later on into Luffield. This is where this BMW has been very strong so far this weekend. Look at these cars trying to hug that inside of the double apex right-hand hairpin, getting nicely onto the power. And this is where the Ford's grunt is going to start pulling as those good exits come, as Paul starts to calm down a little bit, Sumo. I wonder if the Ford driver just starting to push a little bit too hard, as once again Solar Vision takes a look to the inside, but nothing doing.
Well, you can't afford to push a bit hard because, of course, it's a sprint series, but we are approaching the pit window where a little bit of saving can really help you in the long run. Wow, up ahead, look at that. Solar Vision getting on the back of the Hurstingwald car too. The battles are just as good everywhere. I mean, I wish I had 4 eyes so I could watch each and every one of these with great pleasure. But man, the draft will come into perspective. Watch out for the lead. Solar Vision looking down the inside of Stowe Corner. They are showing the intent, but it's not intentful enough. And now the BMW lining something up. The chicane could be a place where you could see something quite like that, as we have seen the yellow Ferrari come ahead.
Yeah, something has happened to the number 186. You can see, I think he may have got a slowdown coming out of Magnussen Beckenson. Look at how slow that BMW is still going as he tries to clear the penalty. He's lost so much time to the cars in front and now has got to deal with the cars behind him as well. But let's jump back to the battle for your lead because Team Heiskensveld has lost the lead. Solar Vision up into first place, and now Paul Searle as well has managed to get past. And here comes the BMW of the RSR Performance, the number 55, around the outside at the arena section. This is not a prime opportunity to make the pass happen. And Team Heiskensveld from the lead of this race is now down into third position. Let's see if we can get a replay of that one. I wonder if a little bit too much curb at that last corner. Here comes the replay. In fact, it was Solar Vision looking to the outside at Club Corner. He got the move done early, and what a fantastic move that was. That number 32 Sumo has shown up with intent.
The Solar Vision car bullying the Heiskensveld car around, just showing who is the boss right here. And for the Team Heiskensveld car, just scoring one from inception, the dream is crumbling because from being P1, all of a sudden, they find themselves in P number 3. And I have to commend Paul Searle right there in P number 2. He saw the gap and he sent it. He saw a struggling Heiskensveld Audi R8 and he said, well, it's one for my taking. And he's got P2 for himself. Now then, just like the ultimate opportunist, you have the RSR Esports car spotting a chance with the struggling Heiskensveld Audi and thinking, well, if I get a good run out of this corner right here, out from Chapel, I can line something up for Stu with the draft on the Hanger straight. Remember, the BMW having a higher top speed, better on the straights. This could be their chance. And Solar Vision making up a big gap for themselves.
And look at RSR Performance around the outside of Stowe. Is this going to work for them? Number 78 is going to fight back hard on the inside. They are not looking to give up one more position as they block off the inside down into Club as well. And I think the number 55 has got the message. Number 78 is saying, not now. Let me try and get back my speed. Something has happened, Sumo, to the number 78. He's really starting to fall off hard right now. And the number 55 with the fastest lap of this race so far, looking to make the pressure count. Something important to note though, Sumo, 35 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock right now. We are just 30 seconds away from cars being able to dive down onto pit lane and make their one and only mandatory driver change. So pit window is almost open.
I don't think it's script that has to do a lot with the Audi R8 car of Team Heiskensveld because lots of drivers and teams were also considering going all out. But had it not been for the driver change time, they wouldn't really have faced the need to take another pit stop. They're only taking it because they can. So grip levels are not going to be a major problem. There has to be something else as the RSR car looks and lunges to the inside. Goodness me, that is dangerous. They've held up the inside line. They've hugged it again. Side by side they go past the Luffield corner. The Audi has the edge for now, but the BMW can get a good run on the exit. They are pushed wide to the AstroTurf, keeping it clean. Getting around down towards the inside line. Copse Corner could be the place for the lunge. Is the BMW going to look? Surely they're going to. Surely to get close, but not close enough for a move. Wow, that was absolutely stunning. The Heiskensveld Audi car holding on by the skin of their teeth. It's got to be something impacting them big time right here. The drop-off is huge.
And 1.5 seconds is already the gap to the Ford in front. Great to see the Ford GT and CXR Project Black wheeling that car up into the podium positions as it stands. But once again, here comes the charge from the number 55 down the Hanger straight. Coming to the inside this time into Stowe Corner. I think the number 78 has decided to stop fighting that one, Sumo. Something has happened to that car. What a performance they had in the warm-up and qualifying sessions, but they're starting to struggle with the race pace now. 33 minutes and 40 seconds to go. Pit window is well and truly open, and none of these cars at the front have decided to dive down onto pit lane. There has been one taker though. It appears as though a few cars are starting to consider this as they head towards this critical pit window.
All the teams and drivers may have worked extremely hard on the lead up to their race, so they know exactly when to pit. They've done multiple practice races and multiple simulations to try which is the best way forward.
And a few cars have come down onto pit lane. It's one of the Team Heiskensveld cars, the number 48, who was struggling a little bit further back in your field. Also joining him is Archer Brothers Esports, the number 202. So a few cars have come down onto the lane this time around. Jumping back though, because now Team Heiskensveld has already been dropped by the RSR car in front, and Mini Danita Racing and that number 14 Audi is trying to put the pressure on here. Very curious to understand what has happened to that Heiskeveld car, Sumo. I don't exactly see any damage on it. I just wonder if they may have burnt the tires off very, very early in this run. We have been talking about these Audi drivers might come down and change tires as well. Maybe the Heiskeveld team have been a little bit too aggressive in terms of running a bit too much camber.
Well, naturally, the tyres can last for quite long in this one, but the Audi team may have been pushing it way too hard early on. We saw Team Heusinger build huge gaps early on in the start of this race, and perhaps they must have reached their drop-off points with all the other teams saving up and going for something later on. And it could not have come at a worse time because all the other teams, they've got slightly fresher rubber in terms of usage, and they're building up the gaps. For NGB Performance, well, it's a mistake that I've done quite often on the exit of Aintree, getting on the grass, trying to go a bit too quick and ending up facing the wrong way. It feels terrible as a driver. That's the perils of Silverstone.
Sometimes in that Audi, if you clip the curb a little bit too much, it will unsettle the car. Let's take a look, though, at the front group. None of these cars diving down onto pit lane as we approach the halfway point of this race. Paul Searle in that Ford number 383 is continuing to try and close the gap to Solar Vision Racing in front of them. But interesting to note, RSR by G Performance, the number 55 BMW, is struggling to close the gap to your leading two cars now. A few more cars down onto pit lane this time around. It's the two Apex Missers BMWs that have committed at the same time. And it appears as though there has been a crash for the Team Heiskeveld number 48 all by himself on cold tires after coming down the pit lane. Let's take a replay of this, but cold tires apparently very dangerous in this GT3 car. Here we come, the replay with the number 48, losing it on the power. That's a very peculiar spin actually, Sumo. Let's see if we can get another look at that one.
So normally GT3 cars have very, very sophisticated traction control systems that don't allow for things like this to happen, but I guess the factor of cold tires and just being a bit too eager on the throttle resulted in that for the Heusinger 48 car. And they've had a bit of a torrid weekend. One of their drivers, Jon, was not really having his internet come on, so Leonard Hartenberg had to jump in as a last-minute replacement. So he drove the first stint, and poor old Maximilian Fritz, he was having a bit of a tricky time with his circuit. He said he wasn't as confident, and sadly for him, that spin, really putting him on the back foot.
Take a look at the pit lane time. That's the curious one to take a look at. It's about 70 seconds total time down pit lane, and that pit lane time in the box itself, 32 seconds, of which 30 of those will be the driver change. So that's the type of times that we're looking at in terms of pit lane. Take a look back at the battle out front, though. Look at Paul Searle. Gap now 0.8 of a second to the Audi in front of him, and he's got RSR by G Performance just 1 second behind as they try and close down. 29 minutes to go. They've only got one or two more opportunities to come down onto pit lane. We'll see if any of these front contenders decide to come down this time. Solar Vision not going to come down. The Ford not coming down. None of these top 5 runners have committed to pit lane at this time. We continue looking at the field as they come through. There's the N-Race Esports BMW being chased by 4 Elements Racing Team Blue. Lapset Racing Team number 17 have come down onto the pit lane. So I'm expecting, Sumo, next time around, going to see the final competitors diving on for the stop.
Absolutely, the window is running off. Remember, folks, only 35 minutes being the maximum drive time. Corsa Sim Racing, what's happened to them right here? That, my friends, has to be on the exit of Kopp's Corner, if I'm not mistaken, on the lead up to Maggots. So here we come then. He takes Kopp's properly at the entry and just loses it midway through. That Audi is a nervous car at mid to high speed corners. It can be a proper devilish beast to handle with a mind of its own. And the Corsa Racing Esports team just realizing that the hard way then.
Yeah, very lazy spin for that Audi, but let's take a look at your leading Audi as it runs right now. Still being chased by the CXR Project Black Ford. The gap has closed a little bit, but that means the gap between the top 5 has also closed. Just 3.5 seconds separating them right now. The number 55 RSR car still with the fastest lap of this race, a 2:04.92. So they're about a second slower than they were in qualifying. But you can put that up to the fuel that they are carrying this time around. Down into Maggots and Beckett's once again they go. I really expect them to come down onto the lane this time around. If you come down the next time, you're maybe just cutting it a little bit too close if you're a car further back in this train. In fact, as I look at the timing screen right now, Sumo, all the cars below 11th place have pitted. So 11th place Shipsky Racing, the number 222, the first car in that train to have not pitted at this time. So first through 11th still have to pit.
Let's have a look if they're going to make their move this time out, heading towards the pit lane. So the mission, yes, they dive down in, and the clock is almost ticking off. So remember, they cannot go apart from 25 minutes on the clock without changing drivers. That's the maximum limit. And look at this. Every single one of them is coming by. Now it's a case of tactics. Do they take fuel? Do they take a 32-second stop? Or do they just keep it with tyres and the driver swap? This right here, Arjuna, is going to be critical to the race.
And the eagle-eyed viewers will have noticed the leader now being shown as Team Heiskenveld number 78. They did not come down pit lane. Look at that queue of cars all down onto the pit lane. Solar Vision going to drop into the box right now. CXR Project Black in the stall in front of them. Who is going to win this pit lane race off the road? You can see the driver chains happening. That's when the cars disappear for just a second. Jonathan Sterling has gotten into the CXR Project Black car. Stefan Schlacker has gotten into 32 Solar Vision Racing. Nick Madsen into the Mini Deniti Racer. There you can see the Ford is taking tires. It does not appear as though any of these other cars have decided to follow him in that decision. Is that going to hurt his ultimate positioning? Here goes the Audi. The Ford drops off the jacks as well and is able to get out on track. In the amount, the gap has not opened up as much as I would have thought with tires. Paul Searle and Jonathan Sterling with a very bold call here, Sumo. I wonder if that Solar Vision car is going to regret not taking the tires.
But interestingly, I had a chat with the CXR Racing team car, and they were not going to take all 4 tyres. It's only 2 sides because, of course, at Silverstone, the track is slightly biased towards it. They're only going to take left-hand side tyres, and that reduces their pit stop time in comparison to taking all 4. So now, not only do they have more fuel in the car and fresher rubber, they have the momentum on their side. They know that they are not as far behind as they originally should have been. This could be a big moment for the Ford, but what can the Mini Denita and the RSR team do? Because RSR, they've fallen back a place with Mini Denita getting the position up here.
Yeah, RSR with a 2-second longer stop than everybody else. So it will be very curious to see where that plays out in terms of fuel. Did they maybe need a little bit more fuel in the thirstier BMW? They are the leading BMW currently as it stands, but Team Heiskenveld is down onto the pit lane. It's a very, very long pit lane here and a very, very low speed limit. Let's see what's going to happen. Solar Vision coming through Maggots and Beckett. That Team Heiskenveld car still not in the box. 25 seconds spent on pit lane. We'll see what happens here, Sumo, but I think Solar Vision is going to come out in front, and they've got a 2-second gap now to the Ford. Those colder tires still coming up to temperature.
Yeah, the colder tires are coming up to temperature for the Ford right now, but as soon as they will be there, the grip levels will just be mightily different. Now keep a keen eye on what happens here. So the Solar Vision car rounding off the final couple of corners, that is the Vale section, Vale and Club, and the Hersingwell car still in the pits. As they come across the final corner, I think Solar Vision are going to have the lead. Where will Hersingwell cycle out? Is it going to be third, fourth? Are they going to be behind the RSR car? That's the main question that we have in mind, because remember, they were struggling before the entry.
And here comes that number 78. They're going to come right out in front of Mini Denita Racing. And that number 14 car is going to look to the outside. Are they going to get the move done through the arena section? They've got enough overlap as they head now to the tricky left-hand corner. But the 78's going to have the drive off the corner. There's contact. Oh, the 14 tries to squeeze the 78 off the exit of the corner. And the number 78 has to just concede for a few seconds. That is going to hurt the number 78, but as the tires come up to temper and pressure once again, they're going to be applying fresh pressure on Nick Madsen in front of them in the number 14 car. Andrei Ratkovic has now gotten into that number 78 car. We'll see what he's able to do. Let's take a look, though. There's been an incident further back in your field for a Team Oblivion racing car. That is the number 64, Matt Loveridge, currently at the wheel of that one. We'll see if that was with anybody. They're down in 29th place, and through Maggots and Beckett's that Audi goes. You can already see the damage to the rear wing. Another lazy spin for the Audi Sumo. So we see a lot of these Audi R8 GT3s in the field here today, but a lot of drivers being caught out by the difficult nature of the car.
Well, it's easy to drive, but it's hard to master this Audi R8 LMS car. It is properly twitchy, and especially with that damaged wing, that car will be losing extra downforce. So Your stability levels just keep on going down time and again with more such damages to the rear wing, and for them it was naturally going to happen if you carry more speed into the entry of the corner. Again, natural racing driver mistake. You want to go as hard as possible. Sometimes it just slips away from your palms like sand going away, and you cannot get it back in. Now then, what about Pro Driver Esports? They are closing up for P number 7, and they have another watching party, another BMW right behind, closing up for that move. This is going to be properly acrimonious, I can feel.
Yeah, the Apex Mishra's 185 currently is that car behind. You can see the 186 behind them as well. They're going too wide. That's one of the other RSR by G Performance cars, the number 56, defending from 4 Elements Racing Team Blue. And Lapset Racing, the 235 as well, getting in on the action. So it's stretched out a little bit at the front of your field, but there are battles from 7th on backwards. There's been an issue though for Shipsky Racing, the number 222 BMW. This is coming through. I'm not exactly sure which section it is. We'll get a replay up in your screen. I'm not sure if they were involved in contact with another car. It was down in towards the club section all by themselves, Sumo. We're seeing a lot of these cars pushing very hard and pushing just over that limit.
Yeah, Shipsky Racing carrying too much speed into the corner. It's such an easy thing to do when you're in the mid-pack, as Shipsky Racing are right now. You want to go extra hard. You want to push as hard as possible. And perhaps tires not being up to temperature after their pit stop. That and just carrying too much speed led to their ultimate spin. Ooh, look at this. Look at this. CXR Racing Project Back are closer than ever. Their tires are warm now. Everything is primed up and ready. Solar Vision have a properly old but properly fast car in their mirrors. What can Jonathan Sterling, the American driver, do right now? Stefan Schaller? Oh man, this is a challenge he will relish. Solar Vision versus CXR Racing Project Black, round number 1. Let's begin.
And they've got 20 minutes to do battle here, Sumo, so plenty of time for the move to be made. And I wonder if the number 383 is going to feel the urge to get it done on the fresher tires. His tires will start to wear off as well, but I think the more important factor, Sumo, isn't going to be tire wear in such a short race. It's going to be tire heat and making sure that you don't overheat the tires. You saw in the background of that shot as well, RSR by G Performance, the new driver, Anthony Pisano, is struggling a little bit and having to fend off from N-Race Esports behind them. The number 199, Maxime Marotti, has gotten into that car, and look at these two BMWs scrapping it out. RSR by G Performance were hoping for a top 3 result here, seeming like they may be struggling to stay in the top 6.
Yeah, it's being a bit tricky for them right now. Maxi Mariotti now sending one, but still holding back once again. It's interesting, drivers are realizing that perhaps it's not the right time to make moves, and that's one very good thing. Normally expect very blind sends down the inside and lots of carnage, but here the racing is a lot better. The drivers are a lot smarter in that case, and the N-Race Esports car lining up something. Down the inside they go.
Oh, and there's contact made. They tried to switch back to the outside line, and RSR by G Performance, the number 55 car, off at the end of the Wellington straight down into Brooklands. They're going to get going once again, but that is definitely going to be looked at post-race by the stewards. Remember, live race control for safety cars. However, all penalties are applied post-race. Let's take a look at this incident, though. Pisano was defending hard from the N-Race 199 behind, and there goes the switch to the outside. The momentum carries the N-Race car into the number 55. Unfortunate there, the 55 able to get back up to speed, only losing that one position.
Yeah, that was a major incident for the RSR Esports car. I mean, they just try to switch back at the wrong moment. And when you're in the draft, it becomes so hard, and the N-Race Esports car just tapping them around, and the other BMW goes spinning like a yo-yo of sorts. This was going to be a better angle. You see them close up. They reached the braking mark, and they'll be braking right about now. And I'm afraid the N-Race Esports car has left it a bit too late for that one.
And there you can see a great shot as well of the RSR car just skipping over the grass in slow motion. I do believe that is going to be a post-race penalty that the stewards take a look at. We'll see exactly what happens now. Let's jump back though to the battle for the race lead, because Mini Danita Racing, Nick Madsen, has gotten into that number 14, and he has climbed onto the back of these leading cars. Jonathan Sterling continuing to apply pressure to the number 32. He looks to the inside here. Doesn't get the move done under braking, but he knows the Audi behind is also on a charge. And I think that number 32 car holding them slightly up. There is traffic in front of them that they're going to catch in the next few laps. But as they head down the Wellington Straight once again, 3 cars all fighting for the race lead and separated by just 0.7 of a second.
You kind of feel it coming here. You kind of feel things getting better now. The battles are getting ever so close. A Mini Denita losing grip on the front end. They would rather lose on the entry into Luffield. Now they've lost a bit of time and they touch and they spin round. Both the leaders, the Ford and the Solar Vision Audi. The leaders have made contact. Drama everywhere. And Mini Denita have pounced on this.
And not just Mini Denita, Team Heiskenveld 78 have gone up into second position now. And here go the 2 cars that just had that contact side by side into Copse. Stefan Schlacker is now going to try and over-under as they head down in towards Maggots and Beckett's. We'll take a look at the replay in just a few seconds. But here they go into Maggots and Beckett's. That Ford is going to give the position up. And Sumil, before we take a look at that replay, I think that might just be a little bit naughty from the number 383. They were trying to push hard, trying to get as close as they could. Unfortunately, getting a little bit too close.
Oh, they just got a bit too close for comfort right there. And man, the Ford just getting eager on the power, and then Audi will be spinning round and the stewards will be watching with 2 very keen eyes and thinking, oh, that's a little bit naughty, my friend. That's going to be a penalty, I'm afraid. And they both got tapped around. They actually recovered that rather quickly, mind you, but losing positions. And if you're the driver in the number 14 Mini Denita car, you will just be thinking, ha! Amazing! I was in the best position possible. I've got the move in, and the slow-mo camera angle just perfectly showing exactly what went wrong. Solar Vision, if they're watching right now, they will just be banging their hands on the table quite like Toto Wolff does in the Mercedes pit box.
And there was another incident, unfortunately, for Kassar Sim Racing. This is coming through turn number 1, using a little bit too much of the curb again, spinning off into that pit exit area. The number 26 car. We've seen that incident before today in this race, and I wonder if we're going to see it a bit more. We've got 15 minutes of racing still to go in this one before we head over in towards race number 2. Let's take a look, though, at Team Heiskenveld number 78, Andrei Rachkovic at the wheel right now. The gap to Mini Denita Racing is holding at around 1 second. But you then take a look at the gap behind. They're fighting it hard right now. CXR Project Black is trying to get the move done cleanly this time. But N-Race Esports all over the back as well. These 2 drivers who are fighting it out for the race lead, Sumo, might not even be fighting for a podium position at this race.
Oh man, for the N-Racing Esports car, remember they could have a potential penalty with the incident that they had heading into Brooklyn's corner a couple of laps ago, but that's not going to phase them away. They are still going to try and make something of this, as a good racing driver would. And now, oh, the Ford gets wide. The Ford loses it on the entry towards Beckett's corner. And the N-Race Esports car could have bounced on, but they realised it's better to stay behind, apart from sending it down the inside at that corner and ending up with a broken and bruised BMW. Now then, using the draft heading towards Stoke corner. It's going to be a little bit of a patient move, this one. Not close enough for the move this time. And the Ford, with the fresh grip, you saw them getting so close to the Audi, and these guys are battling once again. Solar Vision has the position, but the stewards could change all of that very soon with a potential penalty coming in for the Ford. Who knows?
So potentially penalties for both the 4th and 5th place car on track as it stands. Unfortunately, though, there's been another incident for the Team Heiskenveld number 48. Let's try and take a look at the replay here. It seems to be coming through Maggots and Beckett's. This Audi R8 GT3 has been catching out so many of the teams here today, using a little bit too much of the curb potentially on that part of the corner. No, in fact, it's a little bit later. So we take a look again at the front of your field. Nick Madsen has now built up a 1.25 second advantage over Team Heiskenveld and the number 78 behind them. You see those 3 cars in the back as well. That 3-car train for 3rd continues to fight on. There are more battles further back as well through your field, but let's take a look at this one as they head through Maggots and Beckett's once again. 12 minutes, 55 seconds still to go. We'll see what happens this time. CXR Project Black seemingly with a slightly faster car than the number 32 in front of them, Sumo, but not sure exactly how patient the number 383 is going to be this time around.
Exactly, it's going to be very tricky because the last time out they know things can go rather acrimonious, things can go rather wrong. The Ford now under pressure from the BMW at the back. This one is going to be fun. Patience is going to be running out at this stage. All the drivers want results, want points.
They do want the points indeed, as we now look at CXR Project Black looking to the inside through club, and they're now going to get checked up, and N-Race Esports behind them has got a potential move down into turn number 1. They're having to give up a little bit of pace off the corner though to just not hit the Ford in front of them, and nothing going to happen. Action up and down through your field. There's been a car that's actually just come out of pit lane, so I'm not sure. There's been one of the cars with a little bit of damage further back in your field. That's one of the Rogers A51 cars back in the background. There is the Estate Coffee number 411 as well, going slow, letting them by as well. And here comes the BMW. CXR Project Black getting a little bit loose off the exit of the corner. Not a great run at all. And here comes that BMW. Both of these cars strong in a straight line, but unfortunate for them, they're not going to be able to get the move done down in towards this corner. Sumo, it's been an interesting race so far. 11 minutes 30 seconds to go. These cars have fallen off that battle for the podium, and they know they've got a penalty potentially incoming. They're going to be scrapping it out between the two of them for track position.
Let's see how clean they can keep it with 11 minutes to go. Tempers will be flaring, drivers will be getting ever so excited to try and get something for themselves. Now is the time where to keep your head calm and actually go for really smart moves. That Ford, of course, having a bit of gap to itself in comparison to the BMW, so there is a bit of breathing space, mind you. But with 10 odd minutes to go, you can't expect all of these guys to be coming closer. What's happened to the Laps 8 racing team? They are under pressure from a couple of cars behind, one of which is their teammate, it seems.
Yeah, this is the battle at the edge of the top 10. 4 cars scrapping it out for 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. One of them is also Apex Misters number 186, who I do believe has had a few issues in this race of their own. We'll see what happens at the battle on the edge of the top 10. Remember, 200 points awarded to your race winner, and that trickles down all the way to just 1 point for finishing in 43rd place. So they are fighting for significant point offerings in this first race of the IVRA GT Sprint Championship. Back out front though, as Nick Madsen crosses the line once again. 10 minutes and 10 seconds to go. So approximately, if I'm doing the math here, Sumo, 6 laps to go. Maybe 5 laps if the leader slows down a little bit. It depends on all when they come across the line to get the white flag. But Team Heiskenveld behind, continuing to push. I think then number 78, they might not have enough pace to really have anything there. And I think there was actually a car off at the background of that shot there. In fact, yes, that is the Team Oblivion Racing number 64, Matt Loveridge. Let's get a replay on this one.
Someone's had a really, really bad day for Team Oblivion. It's been 2 crashes already. That does seem to be something on their own. The arena section, slow speed corner. Normally you do expect the car to be very stable, but when the weight transfers a bit too quickly, things like that can happen, and that can really ruin your race. And Matt Loveridge learning everything out the hard way around with the Audi. But look at this, a familiar face is on the screen. It's the CXR Black Ford with the Solar Racing car. Man, Solar Vision are under pressure now. The Ford is coming up right behind. There's a spinning Ferrari. We've seen that quite a bit often in Formula 1. What happens here for Michael Schieber for the Ford Elements team?
Yeah, for the number 7 Ferrari, what is going to happen here? Oh, they break on the grass there, and the car snaps viciously on them. Fortunately, it's still pointing in the right direction, so easy for them to get underway in quick order, but we're seeing a lot of incidents throughout this race. Race number 2 coming up shortly after this one. Don't want to miss that one either. It's going to be crazy with that reverse grid start. Take a look at CXR Project Black once again, putting the pressure on Solar Vision. There is the threat of the penalty incoming though, so Solar Vision potentially here, Sumo, might want to just give up the position, knowing that they will potentially get that 3rd place back as a result of penalties for both of the cars behind them.
Exactly, they don't need to fight that hard right now. That Ford, they really want that. They're on the bumper right now towards turn 1. The Ford has to resolve to going towards the outside line, and that means they lose time rather, to the BMW, who is bouncing, goes to the inside line, and the Beamer sends it. The Ford loses another position, and man, with 7 odd minutes to go, the battling is becoming ever so hot right now. Remember, both these teams could get a penalty, and that Audi, the Solar Vision Audi, just does not need to fight as hard. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, things could be getting funny. The draft is coming into perspective. The Ford looks and lunges to the inside line. Perhaps later on is the call, because now they're not close enough.
And I think the Ford might be also being told by his teammate, you don't want to get a second penalty in the same race. If you're going to get another penalty, Sumo, you might as well wait until race number 2 to get it under your belt.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want everything to be accumulated all right now, and so they might as well take it a bit safer. But do you want to take it safe as a racing driver? You're in here to a fight. And although the smarter part of your mind says calm down, when you're racing, the adrenaline does almost always get the better of you. The Audi is being trailed by the BMW right now in this Maggots-Beckton Chapel section, and it's funny because sometimes the weight transfer can get the better of you, and as we have seen so many times, cars can lose it right here individually, but these guys, of course, being the faster ones, keeping it all clean and brilliant. As we see a Ferrari slow one, the Rogers car has had a bit of a treble day so far, isn't it? Sadly for them.
Yeah, let's take a look at a replay as well. This was happening in front of that battle, and again, just using a little bit too much curb and very, very slight contact with that tire barrier on the inside. And as we were watching this replay, there's been another incident for another car. This is the number 24. The 24th place car, the 733 NJB Performance car, heading down in towards Brooklands. Rear end steps around, another lazy spin all by himself. All of these Audis being caught out by that car. Let's jump back to the live pictures once again, though. Third place battle heats up once again. That BMW for N-Race Esports wants to get onto the podium, even if it's just provisionally. And you look at the front of your shot as well. Team Heiskeveld number 78 trying to close up to Nick Madsen and the number 14 that leads. Good exit now for the number 199. For the 32, Stefan Schlacker, not the greatest exit, and here comes the run. Here comes that BMW grunt, the Audi to the inside, the BMW to the outside. What's the Ford going to do as well? Around the outside will be the BMW as he tries to hold it into the inside for Luffield. He's got enough of an overlap for a second, but he doesn't have it later on in the corner. And here comes the Ford now around the outside, not going to be able to get that one done. But currently for Stefan Schlacker, some strong defending, Sumo. This is exactly what you want to see from a car. You want to see him defending potentially now when he knows both cars behind will get a penalty. Sometimes you might want to just let the cars come through and get your position back, but he's setting a statement here. First race of the season, he's going to get this podium on merit.
Well, he's just preening his wings right now and keeping hold of that position. He knows there's an impending attack on its way, and he's blocking it off with some brute force. The N-Racing BMW also getting close right now, and the Solar Vision Audi, they've been through a bit of trouble so far with that spin early on with the Ford, but their spirit has not been dampened. They are still rock hard and rock solid in their defense, and that is why they stand where they stand. But at the top, Arjuna, the Mini Deleter team, making use of every single one of the opportunities handed to them. They seem to be on their way to a victory, but the BMW right now getting closer. Perhaps we can see a move headed into the chicane.
They are going to take a look. Not going to happen there once again. Great defending from that Audi, and the Ford tried to take a look through the inside of club. That's not a wise move, I would suggest, with 4 minutes to go. So 4 minutes to go. It's looking like there's going to be one additional lap. So not 2 laps to go at this point. I think, Sumo, we're looking at 3 laps to go. This is one of the oddities of white flag racing. You have to cross the line with less than a full race lap to go in order to get the white flag.
Absolutely, that'll be something on the minds of all the drivers, how they manage that out. You see the Ford getting a bit excited at this stage. You saw the BMW making a minor mistake. Is this their chance to pounce? Using the draft, using all of that Ford grunt that I have in the back of the car. Going to the outside line, braking later. The BMW also looking for something right here. Oh man, only 3 minutes to go. Everything is kicking off here. Luffield corners where things can go wrong. Thankfully this time everything is nice and clean. Who do you expect, Arjuna? Who do you think is going to come out on top? Penalties could still change a lot of things, but on the track, everyone wants to get their hands dirty at this stage.
Well, the number 199, Maxime Marotti, is looking very, very feisty right now, but Stefan Schlacker in front in the Solar Vision, number 32, also feisty in his own regard, does not want to give that position up. And remember, That Audi and that Ford were fighting for first and second before contact brought them into this battle here. That N-Race Esports car involved in an incident with the RSR Performance number 55. So those are the two penalties that number 199 and 383 are potentially looking at. But once again, we go down this hangar straight in towards Stowe. The BMW is going to look to the inside here. He doesn't have enough of an overlap. Slacker closes the door on him firmly. But 199, that BMW wants the move. Is he going to try a bold move potentially on the last lap of the race? Who knows? But as we cross the line once again, 2 minutes 12 seconds to go. The leader crossed the line when there are 2 minutes and 9 seconds to go. I do not believe this is the white flag, Sumo. So 2 laps to go for all of these drivers. 2 more opportunities to try and get a podium position.
But perhaps the Mini Dinita Audi car can slow the pace down to make sure that they cross the flag just before, so that we can have only 1 more lap instead of 2 more. Let's have a look at how things go out right now. But the Ford, oh boy, they want a piece of this action. So do the BMW. Look at it twitching around. The BMW is taking some proper wide lines. Well, if you've paid for the whole circuit, might as well use every single one of those inches. And the weight transfer, like the pendulum, just making sure that the car can go out of control. The BMW just keeping control of it. And here they are, they're looking for a move. Going to the outside line. It must be the long way around, I beg your pardon. But it doesn't dampen their spirits. They still try, hug the inside line, but still to no avail.
And all of these 2 cars behind trying to get on that Audi have tried to get some good runs off the corner, but Schlacker's putting the car in the perfect defensive position. Down in towards Copse Corner, the BMW is looking like he wants to make the move, but the Ford is going to get a good run through the corner here. Maggots and Beckett's next up. Schlacker needs to get a good exit here to be able to cover off any potential moves behind him. They go down into Maggots. They throw the car in towards Beckett's. The number 199 closes up just a tad as they now get onto the power. The Audi's going to get a good run through the corner, but the BMW, this is where its grunt starts to pull its way forward. Down the straight in the draft. Is he going to look to the inside? Not close enough once again. So, as we come down in towards Stowe, is it going to be a late braking opportunity? No. Schlacker once again covering the inside line. That BMW is looking for an opportunity that Schlacker is not leaving open. And actually, the BMW's down on pit lane. The BMW doesn't have enough fuel. Oh my word. So, the BMW with an unfortunate situation, they didn't put enough fuel in. We talked about the white flag not coming until 1 extra lap. The BMW 199 has been caught out, and as a result, Nick Madsen, as he starts the final lap of this one, he's got a 1.2 second advantage to the cars behind. Let's see if there's any other cars that are going to dive down pit lane. Let's take a look at some of your other battles. The Apex Missers up into 8th place as it stands right now, being chased by Lapset Racing behind. They're going to move up a position as well as they pass N-Race Esports in the pit lane. One battle going on here. There's also a battle happening down in 16th place with Michael Schieber at the front of it. There was also a pretty fun battle happening at the bottom end of the field. You look here, .exe in the Soul McLaren. We haven't been able to talk about them too much, but they're being chased by Awesome Motorsport Group and Meyer SimSpeed Performance. So lots of battling here still on the last lap of this one, Sumo. We've got no time left. The white flag is up in the air. So let's jump back out front to this battle between 3rd and 4th place, because that Ford is closed up once again. But as the number 14 Audi rounds Copse one final time, let's just talk a little bit about what a crazy race it has been so far.
It has been absolutely jaw-dropping, and the best part is we could still have some more drama in the midfield right behind. Look at this, the 2 BMWs going side by side, the 2 RSR cars. Oh boy, you could not strip that loss of fuel. Now then, they're going nose to tail, heading towards Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Last couple of corners, everything is at stake right here. And the second RSR just realizes perhaps it means more to stay behind instead of causing an unfortunate crash, which would lead to both of these guys not even getting the points that they initially get right now. But man, the drama everywhere. What a race this has been so far. And if you're Team Mini Dinita, you'll be opening both of your arms and being so happy, because from being in P4, they're getting a win right now. This is properly big.
And they didn't have that pace in the first stint of the race, but Nick Madsen got into the car and drove the perfect second half of the race to take home the first ever race win here in the IVRA GT Sprint Series. Mini Dinita Racing, the number 14, and Nick Madsen take home the checkered flag. alongside teammate Michael Schlacks. Let's take a look, though, at some of the battles further back in your field. We were looking at the battle for 20th position. That's kind of broken up a little bit in the last few laps. Apex Missers is going to come across the line in 8th place. Look at the queue of cars behind as well. What a fantastic race we got to witness here, Sumal, as more and more cars just finally come across the line. There you go, battling down into the last corner as well. That's Kassar Sim Racing trying to get the move on Pro Driver Esports, and they get it done. A last lap move up into 17th place. It's not many points, Sumo, but important to get every point that you can.
Because towards the end, every single one of them matters. I've seen so many sim racing championships being decided only by a couple of points here and there. So whatever you get, you take it with open arms and you do not give up. But Mini Denitra Racing, massive congratulations. What a win it was for them. As you mentioned, Arjuna, not really the strongest first stint, but bouncing back is an art, and Mini Denitra have really done it rather well.
We wait for the final few cars to come across the line. There you see them up on your screen as well, heading around Club for the final time. 1 hour of racing action is behind us here in the opening round of the IVRA GT Sprint Championship. Let's go ahead and take a look at your race results here. So it is Mini Denitra Racing and the number 14 that takes home the win by 1.285 seconds from the pole position winner, Team Heiskenveld number 78. Solar Vision Racing holds on to P number 3, with CXR Project back in 4th, expecting a potential penalty. The two RSR by G Performance cars lining up 5th and 6th, with Apex Missers number 185, followed closely by Lapset Racing Team number 17, Pro Driver Esports and the second Apex Missers cars going to round out the top 10. Taking a look at 11th on back, Lapset Racing Team 235, followed by Archer Brothers Esports. N-Race Esports, we saw them have to make that last lap pit stop. Unfortunate miscalculation for them has robbed them of a potential top 5 finish. Xanity Motorsport, Shipsky Racing, 4 Elements Racing Team Blue, Kassar Sim Racing Hydra, then Pro Driver Esports Black Team Heiskenveld, the second car, the number 48, back in 19th place, with Lapset Racing Team 11 on the edge of the top 20. Final few cars, you got the .exe Esports Neon Green, that's the sole McLaren in your field, finishing 60 seconds back from the race winner, with Awesome Motorsport Group, Meyer SimSpeed Performance, NJB Performance, FBP Racing 488, Team Vikings, Midgard, Kassar Sim Racing Leo, Rogers A51, Estate Coffee Co, Team Oblivion Racing, some cars that we saw struggling a little bit more, coming a lap down. And there you go, some of the casualties of this race. You've got FBP Racing number 458, No Nonsense Racing 52, and the 3 cars that did not take to the grid, Altitude Esports Roaring Chicken Nuggets and Altitude Esports Blue. So we do have some podium interviews standing by, and Sumil, why don't you talk to the number 32 and Stefan Schlacker, who had a fantastic defensive drive to hold on to the 3rd and final podium spot.
Well, we've got Stefan right here with us, and Stefan, that became rather dramatic towards the end. What was it like for you? How did you control it, and what do you feel about this result that you've got right here?
Well, you have to say, we had the lead, we were quite comfortable in the lead there. Yes, we weren't the fastest car, but we held our ground until that unfortunate incident with the Ford behind us. And then it became really that survival fight there. Didn't really feel too much pressure from the guys behind, but they were keeping me very honest, I have to say that.
But what do you have to think about the incident with the Ford? Because we saw you spin around over there. Is it something that you're slightly frustrated about? Because of course it could have cost you a win essentially in this one.
Yeah, we're not sure if we would have been able to hold on to the lead for that long, because it was still, I think 20 minutes or so to go. But yeah, we're feeling a little bit saddened by that incident because it took us the chance to get that win. But we have to be honest here, we are a very new team on the iRacing side. We only got together in August this year. So this 3rd place really does feel a win after the unfortunate incidents we had at Roadland, where we crashed out, leading by 30 seconds.
That's rather unfortunate, but this one has to be quite a decent one in comparison then. And Stefan, what about the strategy element? Do you think going for tires is going to be something that pays off in this one? Because I think it was only the Ford that went for rubber in this race.
Well, you essentially have to take a full tank of fuel if you want to pull off the tire strategy. And it doesn't give you as much back as you lose with that full tank. So I was honestly surprised to see the Ford take the tires. We were very sure in our strategy that we're only going to take fuel and not the tires, as our car was quite well set up for the tires to last the full hour.
Well, lastly, just before we let you go, Stefan, what's going to be your approach for the next race, as you have to start all the way back from the grid?
Well, I think it's quite easy where we're going to go for go hard or go home.
Haha, perfect. Congratulations on the results, Stefan, and hope to see you right here for the interviews in the second one too.
Yeah, thanks.
So that was the third place finisher, Stefan Schlacker. Now, Sumo, you're standing by. The second place finisher is the number 78, Team Heiskenveld.
Well, that was quite an interesting race for Team Hersingveld right there. I've got Andrei Rakovic right here with me. And Andrei, that was a rather interesting one. We've got quite a tricky race. We saw quite a few battles going on. At what moment did you feel that, okay, perhaps we can really challenge for a podium? Because we saw you fighting for the win, and then, of course, the car fell back a little bit early on.
Yeah, in the end, I had a little bit of lift and coast because we were very short on fuel and didn't make the outlap completely. And at the beginning, I was just trying to stick with Nick and hold the gap as close as possible. And then mid-stint, he had some very good laps in and pulled away 1.5 seconds. And in the end, I got back close, but then I had the fuel problem and couldn't go full throttle anymore. And so I just maintained second position.
And Mats, what do you think about the next race? Because now you guys have to start pretty much from the back of the field. It's going to be a tricky one, but I guess you have the self-belief, don't you?
Yeah, first, good evening, guys. Yeah, it will be really difficult because much traffic. In the first race, we could start from pole, and so we had no traffic. That was quite good, but yeah, in the end, it will be really difficult because yeah, Andre has to do the start and try to navigate through the traffic and hopefully without damage, and then maybe I can overtake some cars in the end as well.
Well, hopefully it's going to be a good one. Congratulations on second place, folks, and we hope to see you right here in the commentary box for the next one too.
Will be a hard one, but we try as much as we can.
Absolutely. Well, that, folks, was the number 78 Hersingveld team. And now we've also got the leaders, the winners of the race, right here with us. But what a drive it was for the Mini Denita team. Guys, firstly, Mats and Nick, that was fantastic. I mean, you were actually in P4 for quite a while, but then you were able to be very opportunistic and get the win. How do you feel, both of you guys, Nick and Michael?
Yes, I think Michael was doing a great job. I said to him he should focus on staying in P5 and watch the guys in front what they're doing and save a little bit of his tires. And then in my stint, I just focused on have a good outlap and came in front of Andre in turn 3. No, turn 4 it might be, and tried to focus on holding him for outside the second, because on this track inside the second is really tricky to pull away. So I just focused on doing my some good laps and keep him behind.
And Michael, what about you? How do you feel after this one?
Yeah, it's awesome to be here in the first place. It's quite unbelievable, and yeah, it was a very hard start for us because I struggled a bit with traction in the first stint. It was very difficult for me to keep contact with the guys in front, but at least we were there. In a good gap for the pit, and the rest of the race it was Nick that did this awesome job in the second stint. He had for sure a better feeling than me with this setup on this track, and it's unbelievable, guys. Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations, folks, and all the best for the next one, where you'll be starting all the way at the back, but I'm sure you'll be able to do a good job.
Yeah, we hope to. We hope.
Definitely going to be a lot of fun. That, folks, was the Mini Denita team winning. And man, what a race that was. Utter drama everywhere.
Drama indeed. And I tell you what, Sumo, let's take one more look then at your race results. Now remember, these results are going to be inverted for the next race. So Mini Denita Racing will start at the rear end of your field with Team Heiskeveld in front of them. So as we scroll through the list, just take a look at where they all finish and we'll try and pinpoint who's going to be the leader. I do believe, if we take a look at this, all of these 31 through 35th place cars are going to be at the back of the grid. You do need to finish 70% of the first race in order to be included in that in that reverse ordering. So as we scroll through once again, 30th place Team Oblivion Racing, number 64 Sumo, going to be out in front to lead us to green. And we've seen some of these cars struggling at the back of your field. It's going to be chaotic at the start as those faster cars try and make their way through.
Exactly. There's going to be drama all the way through, even in the mid pack, because when we see the faster cars coming through in the middle of the race, all these, let's say, slightly slower cars will be facing a bit of trouble. And Silverstone may be a wide track, it may offer lots of opportunities, but on the other hand, it's still going to be very tricky with all the crashes that we've seen. All we can say is when we come back from the break, it's going to be drama on the way.
So the break is going to be about 15 minutes. Don't go anywhere if you're watching live on YouTube. We're going to be right back with race number 2 in about 15 minutes time. We're going to take a short break here live on the iRacing Esports Network though, and we'll return with round number 2 of the IVRA GT Sprint Series live from Silverstone. We are back live here on the iRacing Esports Network for RaceBot TV's coverage of the first round of the IVRA GT Sprint Series. And after a dramatic and exciting race number 1, we head to race number 2 as the temperature cools and the night sky beckons. Take a look at the track conditions right now. It's much cooler than that first race we just saw. Track temperature down at 23 degrees Celsius. A strong gust of wind blowing across the circuit as well right now. But Sumil, what an exciting race. We just had to take a little bit of time to compose ourselves there as you now prepare for the second race of this race weekend.
We expected lots of drama, lots of action at the IVRA GT Sprint Series, as the name suggested. And boy, it was a proper sprint, with fuel being a major factor towards the end. Everything that we could have expected to come into perspective did come into perspective. And now for the second one, with the sun setting and temperatures being even cooler. Man, things are going to get rather exciting here. I'm just rubbing my palms and waiting to see how this one goes on, because the next one, that's going to be a whole lot of fun.
So we'll take one more look at your race format. We've already finished a 30-minute qualifying session earlier in today's broadcast. We saw race number 1, that first 60-minute sprint race. Now we prepare for this reversed grid race. And the interesting thing that I'm looking at now, Sumal, is we saw a lot of cars struggling in this first race, losing the car often by themselves. Those cars are now going to be starting up front in control of the field, and the faster cars have to make their way by.
Exactly. For them, it's going to be a bit of a nervous time, because with all the cars they've seen already make mistakes on their own, they would want to clear them out as cleanly and as early as possible. But will they let them clear it on so easily? Because these guys have been facing a few troubles themselves. Now with the temperatures being slightly cooler, you expect them to have more grip, but unforced errors can happen. And for the leaders, that is a worrying sign, because for them, they just want to score as many points as possible, as cleanly as possible. This is going to be a proper test of their patience and their ability to keep the car clean and scratchless towards the end.
So the qualifying grid, or rather the race grid, is currently being set right now as a result of some limitations in the iRacing simulator. Cars are having to manually set qualifying times in order to set the reverse grid. So they're working their way around the track, doing some slightly slower lap times than you might expect, but we'll wait and see what happens. Interesting thing to note though, Sumo, as I bring up the lap times as they stand right now. Look at Team Heiskenveld. Number 78, they have gone much quicker than I think their target lap time should have been. We saw them finishing in the top 5 of the race earlier. They may be forced to start from pit lane as a result of this infringement, I do believe, in the qualifying time.
And that's a big blow to them. Naturally, you want to score as many points as you possibly can, and even small infringements like this one can impact you a long way through towards the end. And let's see how they're able to fight out this one, because in the reverse grid race, you expect a lot more drama. Sometimes, for some drivers and some teams, it can be a restriction of sorts, a limitation of sorts, but for the other ones, the more opportunistic ones, this is a major opportunity. On which side do they fall? Well, the next 1 hour is going to give us the answer.
And I'm actually just reviewing the rule book right now. Unfortunately for that 78 car, if I'm correct, and they have not qualified with their correct time, well, Sumo, it's a big penalty as well. A 30-second stop and hold. That is going to drop Team Heiskenveld almost down a full lap. So for the number 78, who had a strong performance in that first race, now I think the second round of the IVRA GT Sprint Series is going to be much tougher as they try and battle their way back.
It all comes crashing down at times when you make a mistake like this one, and the Hersingwell dream was looking quite optimistic, rather positive in the early parts of the race when they were leading, and then the incidents happened and they started losing pace. Eventually they scrapped home to finish in P2, which is a superb result. But that penalty infringement for this particular race, not only do they have to start from all the way back, they also have that 30-second stop-go penalty. And when you have a 30-second drive stop to change your drivers, and then you add that penalty on, things just get rather bad for them.
We'll see what happens with them right now, but let's take a look then at the starting order. It is going to be the Heiskeveld machine that provisionally does line up in the pole position for the State Coffee Co., the number 411 in second place. Then Rogers A51, number 76, Quasar Sim Racing Leo. These are cars that struggled in that race number 1. Now we take a look at Team Vikings mid-card, FVP Racing 488, NJB Performance. We saw their Audi spinning on multiple occasions. Then you've got the likes of Mayor Sim Speed Performance, the number 73. They'll be hoping for a slightly cleaner race this time around and to use that starting position to their benefit. Awesome Motorsport Group and .exe Esports Neon Green on the edge of the top 10. That number 42, the Sol McLaren MP4-12C in your field. Laps at Racing Team number 11. Team Heiskenveld number 48. Pro Driver Esports Black, Kassar Sim Racing Hydra, 4 Elements Racing Team Blue, and then Shipsky Racing in 16th place. Taking a look at the edge of the top 10, Xanity Motorsports, N-Race Esports, the number 199, that we're expecting a penalty to come down for that race number 1 contact. Then you've got Archer Brothers Esports, the 202, Laps at Racing Team 235. And we take a look at the last 15-14 cars, I do believe, starting this one. Apex Missers, number 186. Pro Drive Esports, number 58. Laps at Racing Team, number 17. That second Apex Missers cars, the 185, starting in 24th on the row number 12. With RSR by G Performance lining up next to each other, 25th and 26th. Then you've got that third place finisher, Solar Vision Racing, Stefan Schlacker, going to start after his immense defensive drive. And next to him is going to be the race winner from race number 1, Nick Madsen from Mini Denita Racing. We take a look at some of the other cars that did not get included in the reverse grid order as a result of not finishing 70% of the laps in that first race. You've got FBP Racing, Altitude Esports, Roaring Chicken Nuggets, and that second Altitude car with Team Oblivion Racing going to be at the edge of the field. They're lining up on the formation laps. Lights are on. The headlights are on, Sumo. We're going to be racing into the darkness, I do believe. Race number 2 right in front of us, going to be very exciting.
Bring it on then. Colder temperatures, rising flares, and more exciting racing. What can we expect here? Lots of drama. The headlights are on, as they always are. The racing now in this next 1 hour will be dramatic. Here we go then, race number 2 at Silverstone. Bring it on.
And we'll see what happens to Andrei Rakovic. I'm not exactly sure what is happening right now. He finished in the top 3 in that race number 1. By all regards, he should be starting at the back, but on pole position he stands right now. And it looks as though the cars on the outside have forgotten the starting formation. And there's going to be a check up there. Is any car going to be spun around? Looks like they're going to get into turn number 1 cleanly. They're all going to shuffle their way around. In through that second corner, there's a spinner. That's one of the Audis, I do believe. NJB Racing, maybe. All around as they head now into the arena section for the first time. That Team Heiskenveld 78 is roaring away to a race lead right now. Look further back in your pack though. Look at all the action for cars that finished up in the order further down. Look at Solar Vision Racing now looking to the inside as Mini Denita Racing continues to pull up positions. Mini Denita Racing getting a great start up into 22nd place already. And there's another car around. That's the Apex Missers teams rather. All round coming through onto the back straight. There has been so much drama at the start of this reverse grid race. It's what we expected, Sumal. And we'll have to take a look at the replays in just a few seconds.
The Mini Denita team is carving their way up from the second Apex Missers car. They're trying to go to the outside line. And now Nick Madsen already up to P number 20, lunging down the inside line. And the Apex Missers team have clearly missed the Apex here. And Mini Denita going past, but they are going side by side. At the top, it is the Andrei Rakovic Hersingveld car, which has the penalty, of course, in P number 1. But Arjuna critically at the start. There is a restart zone. Everyone has to accelerate in a certain position of the track. That is where the green flag drops. And the classic old rolling start confusion has happened with a certain few drivers behind, accelerating a bit too early, and the others in the front not going out till later. Now then, Mini Denita trying to go to the outside line once again. We are back on the back stretch, heading towards Stoke on, and there's drama everywhere. The N-Racing BMW car looks to the inside line and gets the move done.
And they started back in 17th place, up into 12th place now as they go down the inside of, oh no, that's the Team Heiskenveld car. I don't know if that's the 48. That is the Heiskenveld 48 that is going very slow. They're 3 wide as contact made with Shibsky Racing. And now Shibsky Racing going to make contact as well. Team Heiskenveld making further contact with the N-Race Esports number 199. Oh my word, what a start we have been treated to there. Look at them, 2 wide in the background. There's more contact. Oh my word. I am losing my mind here, Sumo.
Everything is kicking up right here at Silverstone. It's the home of British motorsport, and today it's the home of dramatic racing. Oh, look at this, the BMW and the Helsingborg car going side by side right there, and now we focus on the missed Apex car too. They are just in the midst of every single battle that you can imagine. Look at this, Mini Donita. Oh goodness me, Spinner! Spinner! That's an Audi on the exit of the arena section. Another car has spun around just like we saw on the opening lap. And those tires will have a crater as big as the surface of the moon.
I tell you what, let's start going through all of these replays. The action is absolutely incredible up and down your field. This is what reverse grid GT sprint racing is all about. Look at Solar Vision, the number 32. They're back in 19th place right now, trying to make their way up. But that Team Heiskenveld number 78 has indeed got the penalty already, coming down in the next 3 laps to serve that, as Apex Missers is going to defend from RSR, as Solar Vision now looking to the inside line, and they're going to get alongside as they go through Cops. What a fantastic move from Stefan Schlacker. He had the defensive drive of his life to hold on to 3rd place in that race number 1, and now race number 2 looking to make headway as he goes down in towards Magus and Beckett's. But we will finally take a look at some of these incidents on the start. It all started with the NJB performance car side by side with Mayer Simsport. He's going to use that curb on the inside line, and he loses it all by himself, Sumo. Fortunate to not spin off into the oncoming traffic. Oh, he gets a little bit close to some of those cars. Fortunate, though, to not hit anyone. Let's now take a look at the second one coming out of the arena section. Martin Hobson, I do believe it was. In fact, no, this will be further back. This is the Lapset Racing car. Let's take a look at this replay.
And they lose it on their own, the weight being transferred a bit too quickly. Oh, do they punt anyone? They thankfully do not. Wow, things could have gone awfully wrong right here, and thankfully they just keep it clean. But the Apex Missers team, boy, oh boy, oh boy, they've been in the midst of all the drama. The 185 spins around, and Yuri Matitson might be thinking, oh dearie me, you've got to do it all over again, because he spins and goes the wrong way. On another replay then, Archer Brothers Esports, they got on the grass. Again, same thing, right? The Audi has so much power. You put one wheel on the grass and the grass simply says, no sir, off you go. And so off he went.
And we'll jump back to the live pictures. Andrei Ratchkovich up to a 3-second lead out front, but he does have that 30-second stop and hold penalty to serve in a few laps time. So this will be your net race leader. Team Vikings mid-card defending hard from Mayer Sim Speed Performance further back. We talked about the Mayer Sim Speed team having a slightly difficult race number 1, Sumo, but they're using this reverse geared position to really put the fight for the race win right now.
And if you want to win the championship, you have to do things like this. Grab every single one of these opportunities by both your hands. And Mayer Sim Racing are doing exactly right that in P number 2. What about P1 though? Can they grab that position from Team Number Vikings? That is effectively P1, I beg your pardon. They are currently on track fighting for P2, but Rakovic, of course, with the penalty. So the Mayer car goes to the outside line. They are looking for this move. It's going to be a bold one if they get it done. Still door-to-door. And Mayer Sim Racing have to go the long way. It's not yet done because the chicane is coming up. They effectively have the inside line for that. And so they have the position as well. A smartly, clinically executed move, and Mayer Sim Speed Performance are up into P2.
And you could hear that pit siren in the background. Team Heiskenveld 78 down onto pit lane to serve that penalty. So now out into the race lead is Florian Volk for Mayer Sim Speed Performance. They are a pure Audi team. They only drive cars representing those 4 rings, and right now already up to a 7/8 tenths of a second advantage. And now Kassar Sim Racing Leo trying to get the move done on Team Vikings. Let's take a look though at some of the drivers who were very strong in race number 1. There is Mini Donita Racing. Nick Madsen up to 12th place. An incredible start for him. Take a look at that gap though, Sumo. 10 seconds. I wonder if Mini Donita still have an opportunity here to win this race. as the RSR by G Performance 56 going slow in front of them.
But from the looks of things, cars are not just cars for Mini Dinita, they're just numbers that they're crossing by every single time. They started so far behind, and now the RSR G Performance car going side by side, looking to go inside. You know what? The RSR team, they're not afraid of the AstroTurf, and Mini Dinita are not afraid to go side by side, because here they are then, going wheel to wheel on the exit of Luffield Corner towards Woodcote. It's a flat drag race towards Top Corner. Who's got the edge? It's the RSR BMW with its straight line speed advantage. And man, things are getting spicy and hot over here then.
And just behind these guys is Solar Vision Racing. They finished third place in that last one, up into 14th as it stands. We'll keep watching though as Mini Dinita Racing makes their way through Maggots and Beckett's and looks at the potential 10th position in front of them. FBP Racing leading this little battle pack as we watch them on screen. Interesting to note though, Team Heiskenveld, the number 78 Sumo, that 30-second penalty has been served. They've lost a full minute in the pit lane as RSR Performance looks to the inside now. They're going to get the position done. And now here comes Mini Dinita Racing as well. They're going to get one position, and they might look to get the second one now. That BMW getting a terrible run off the corner. Around the outside they look, but what a braking performance there from RSRG Performance. They go a little bit deep though into the corner. Side by side they come around the last corner, and Mini Dinita Racing up into P number 10. And now look at RSR by G Performance. Their contact between the two cars. My word, Sumo, this is incredible.
I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm jumping and laughing like a little child because the battling is just amazing. Mini Dinita and RSR still going wheel to wheel. The Ferrari almost made contact. There's another Audi and Ferrari battling in the background. Dinita go to the outside line with RSR on the inside and they touch. Mini Dinita are spun around. Oh my goodness me. That comeback has been shunted to the dustbin.
And it was the Ferrari trying to go deep, defending from Solar Vision Racing, who was making their own charge. Here you'll see the replay, the Ferrari going deep, defending from the number 32. Nick Madsen was trying to set up the corner to get a great exit. At the 12th place car in the number 488, making contact with race 1 winner. And for Nick Madsen now, he's down in the field. I'm just trying to pick him up on my timing screen right now, Sumo. I'm not exactly sure he is. There he is, 23rd position on track. He was all the way up into P13 at one point. He's got a lot of work to do now back in the pack.
If Nick Madsen plays Grand Theft Auto...
Sumo having a little bit of technical issues. This is some of the joys of live broadcasting around the world. Sumo obviously based in India.
Only one line.
Myself on the west coast of the US, and as Sumo continues to get his internet issues sorted, look at Mini Dinita looking to the inside of one of the Apex Missers cars. One of the other cars struggling, Maximilian Frisk, that's the Team Heiskenveld number 48, who's had an off at that Maggots and Beckett's complex. Let's get a replay of this one right now. The second Team Heiskenveld machine not having a good day at all, and there is the number 48 stopped on track. Let's see if we can get another look at this incident. Here comes the replay up on your screen right now. Sumo, oh my word, that is a odd incident for the number 48.
What just happened? He's just lost control of the car and it's just spinning around like a wild bull that's been stabbed in the head. Look at this, he gets on the grass and at high speed. The risks are extremely high and the rewards perhaps in that case not as big, with Maximilian Fritz after that penalty taking a trip to the grass. And boy, his race is virtually been pushed back to the very, very deep corners. He has to make an amazing comeback. Now then, Corsa Sim Racing, what can they do? May Sim Speed are at the top, but there has been lots of interest surrounding the .exe esports team. They are currently in P number 2, and man have they been doing an amazing job, setting personal best after personal best. They also had the purple lap a few laps ago. Marius Brewer is surely doing something brilliant right here. Can he keep his position from Corsa Sim Racing? That McLaren, that flame-throwing McLaren as we see on the screen right now, surely has the pace, Arjuna.
The fire-breathing McLaren. It's such a great shot off the rear wing. Let's take a look through Maggots and Beckett's. You can see the train of cars behind him. 3rd and 4th place. The two Cassar sim racing cars. Look at those flames as the McLaren slides, as well as the Audi. The number 26 in 3rd place is now going to lose the position potentially to his teammate as they come around the corner. 2 teammates side by side, one in an Audi, one in a Ferrari. That Ferrari down the inside has got a good run off the corner and is going to try and sweep around the outside as they go down in towards the Stowe corner at the end of the Hangar Straight. He's going to get the position, and look at the gap that Florian Volk has already managed to build up, Sumo. Difficulties in race number 1, well, he's setting them aside right now in a 3.5 second gap, looking very, very good for the number 73 team.
Oh, it's looking absolutely fantastic. The one thing that Mayor Simspeed had to do was just distance themselves and keep it clean. What can these guys do then? Can they keep it clean? The Laps team racing, the number 235 with Pascal 1, Marcos Rochen and the wheel of the Ferrari. He does a good job to go past the Audi right now, so everything is beautiful for him. Let's see if he can keep it clean that way. Now then, N-Race Esports are behind too, so that's the Audi, the green Audi right behind, and the BMW too. Everything is ticking up. Team Vikings then are under pressure from the BMW. Now, the N-Race BMW has been doing a good job. Can they get the Audi? They've got a straight line advantage, mind you.
And Team Vikings mid-card are unfortunately plummeting through the field. This is what the reverse grid sometimes does. Puts cars in difficult positions where they have to defend for all their might. However, there's been an incident that we're going to take a look at the replay of right now. It was between the number 733 and one of the Apex Misters cars down in towards Stowe corner, I do believe, at the end of the straight. And oh, contact was made, and a little bit of a synchronized pirouette for both of those cars.
Pirouetting indeed, and 10 on 10 for that synchronized one. That's what the judges at the Olympics would say. But no, rather poor incident, that one. Both these cars going side by side, and as beautiful and glamorous as it may seem, when it goes wrong, Spinala.
And we're going to keep watching this replay for just a second. 15 minutes done in race number 2 right now. Sun continues to drop. I believe there was a further incident between these two cars, and that was a close one there. It's not the one I was referring to, however. We'll keep watching this one and see if there's anything other than just some irritated flash of the headlights. I do believe as we continue watching the 733, the incident will come potentially. Nope. We're going to then take a look at another incident for another car. Matt Loveridge, number 64, going slow off the exit of the corner there. And, oh, he gets punted around by one of the Ferraris there.
Slam dunk, and if you're Max Verstappen, you've seen quite a bit of that yourself as well. Shades of 2019 Formula 1. And this particular corner just has the ability, when you're coming off the draft, cars can get loose. We see, oh yeah, that's the Mist Apex team and the Team Oblivion racing car hit by the side. It's good that they didn't jump over the sausage curb, otherwise we could have seen other cars being punted around by an out-of-control Audi. Thankfully though, I mean unfortunately for the Oblivion car, but thankfully only one car being involved in all the carnage. And FPP Racing, that was a violent spin. The car just seemed to lose control all of a sudden. Perhaps the pendulum effect coming into picture, Arjuna.
And I think that was the other car involved in that initial contact that we were watching down with Matt Loveridge. But we jump back to the live pictures. Battle on for 4th place. That's the Audi, the Cassar Sim Audi that's having to fend off Laps at Racing Team 235. But 235 around the outside of Brooklands has got the position done. Matt Loveridge unfortunately continues to struggle further back in your field. But let's stick on this one right now on the onboard. They make their way around Luffield. Mayor Simspeed Performance now up to a 4-second advantage. The gap really starts to come down a little bit when you look 5th on back. There's an angry train of cars beginning to form right now, Sumo, as they make their way through Copse Corner with the sun setting. They're racing their way into the night. It's going to get hard to identify some of these cars, but by the same token, it's going to be a much different track to what these drivers were racing just an hour ago.
No, the temperatures really fall down, and from commentating on the last couple of weeks' Porsche Sport Carrera Cup, that happened at a completely dark Interlagos with no lighting. And the one thing that I was able to pick up from there was that the drivers were struggling to find their apexes. Now at Silverstone, you need to hit all of them, as we see the Vikings car going side by side. Oh dearie me, that's with the N-Racing BMW, I suppose. They've lost the position, and the challenge that's going to come up here, Arjuna, is that they're going to be struggling to find their apexes. As a result, Silverstone being such a flowing track, you can see some of them understeering and pressurizing their tyres a lot more. naturally the drop-off when that happens is going to be even more dramatic. And so it could be a race of attrition towards the end, with lots of drivers just struggling to find their braking zone, their apex points. Everything could go wrong here, and only the drivers who've practiced the most will rise up to the top here.
And important to note as well, the drivers who finished race number 1 are the drivers who start the car for race number 2. And with the pit window opening in about 8 minutes time, we'll see those drivers who started off the race get back into the car for the first time in just over an hour. We're riding on board though with Stefan Schlacker in the number 32 car as he chases down Pro Driver Esports Black, the number 24 in front of him. These guys are the furthest up of your podium finishes from race number 1. Bold move to the inside for the 32. He's not going to stick his nose there. That was a little bit far back though. If you take a look though at the fastest lap of this one, Sumo, 2 minutes 7:49 is the time. That's a little bit slower than our race number 1 fastest lap. Despite these cooler track conditions, the amount of action that is being on track is just meaning that the pace overall is a little bit slower. And when I think back to N-Race Esports, that 199 that we saw have to come down the pit lane that one extra time, I wonder if this is going to help some of these cars in terms of determining their fuel strategy.
It will. Certainty really helps them manage their strategy out. And if the leader is actually going slowly with all the battles going on, everything just bunches up and you don't have to do one more lap. I mean, we saw it in a different championship altogether. Not with combustion engines, but that was Formula E in Mexico City. And it was Nissan who miscalculated their battery and they ended up losing their race so easily. That aside, Nissan and electric engines aside, battles at the back into it, so they are going side by side, and they make contact, synchronized spinning part number 2, and Solar Vision. Oh no, 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 they've just gone the wrong way round. That is such a pity.
And for a team that had fought so hard for that podium position in the first race, let's take a look at this replay. Around the outside, they were trying to hang it on the Pro Drive Esports number 24, but contact was made once again. And unfortunately there, Sumo, I have to wonder if that's a little bit of a racing incident. The number 32 car trying to close the door quite aggressively as we take another look again, this time from hopefully a slightly better angle, but that Pro Drive slightly missing the apex at the same time. But there you can see the 32 was trying to go for a gap that didn't exist.
Well, it's all fun and games trying to live up to Ayrton Senna's quote that if you see a gap and if you don't go for it, you're no longer a racing driver. But sometimes that gap just disappears ever so quickly. Speaking of things that were disappearing ever so quickly, it was Mini Denita's chances for a win after the incident that they were involved in. But then Nick Matson, I'm going to love this chat with him if he comes on for an interview after on, because he has just fought with such great spirit and with such great anticipation, because even after falling back to P23, after coming to P number 11 or 12 there or thereabouts, he has fought and clawed his way up into P15. That right there is a champion's performance, but it's not over and done yet. 40 minutes still to go. Can he convert it into a good result? What about Anthony Pisano though? Because RSR Esports, from the looks of things, Arjuna, they've always had the pace. What can they do in the darkness here?
Well, that number 55, I hope Pisano doesn't mind me saying this, but he was the slightly slower driver in that first race, and he was unfortunately involved in the contact with N-Race number 199 that put them further back in your field. They were looking good at one point for a potential race win in race number 1, but back in 9th position right now, being chased by the Apex Missers number 185. There is action further up in your field though. We talk about N-Race, that number 199. They're looking now to try and hold off or try and get the position rather on the fellow RSR by G Performance number 56 that's right in front of them. As the sun continues to set, Subal, these two cars becoming hard to pick out between one another. That tone of red is very, very similar.
Yeah, it is quite similar. Similar looking liveries, but of course, these guys also in the same car. It's going to be interesting to see how they manage things out, and right now we are riding on board with Maxim Mariotti in the BMW Z4. Look at how the sun is setting off. Right now, the apexes are still easy to find, but later, of course, it becomes even harder. Now, remember, these Endurance GT3 cars have a whole lot of beautiful headlights. They're very strong, they're very potent, but when it gets dark and when the lighting around you is really bad, things can get ever so difficult. The N in N-Race Esports, of course, stands for no holding back. Can they get a podium this time out is going to be the question on our lips.
So 38 minutes to go. Sorry, Sumo, what did you see?
Another thing, actually, the timing screen has just come up to 38 minutes. From the looks of things, we're actually coming up to the pit window, and time has just flown, hasn't it?
That's exactly what I was just about to say. 3.5
Jinx.
minutes until the pit window is open. And I wonder if you're Nick Madsen, I wonder, Sumo, we saw the performance he had compared to his teammate. For Nick Madsen, he does not want to come in at the start of the window. He'll be hoping to hold on to that car until the very last lap that he can. Let's jump back out, though, to the battle for second place. The McLaren is holding off the charging Ferrari 488 behind him. Qassar Sim Racing Hydra, the number 25, is chasing down that fire-breathing number 42. But .exe Esports doing a very strong job right now, Sumo, to hold on to second place. At the same time, they've also slowly been closing the gap to that leading number 73. There you take a look at the lap gaps. It's going up and down every single lap. And right now, that number 42 on a charge.
Absolutely. Then the .exe Esports team have been very impressive in the second race so far. That fire-breathing McLaren has shown itself to be a very potent car. Of course, it has a longer fuel tank, so it can go longer in terms of fuel mileage as well. They get a bit of wrong there on the exit. They go into the AstroTurf. The pressure is back on for .exe. It's not over and done yet. The move has been sent. And the Qassar Sim Racing car gets the position in for .exe. Well, the .com has to be restarted now. The server has shut down. Error 404. What can they do? Can they get P2 back? The draft needs to be used at its fullest, and the Ferrari is up in a P2.
Qassar Sim Racing licked the stamp and sent it up into P number 2 now. They've lost a little bit of time to the car out front as a result of all of this scrapping, but clearly Richard Small behind the wheel of the 25 car believes he has got the pace to close down on your current race leader. See in the background as well, Lapset Racing Team, number 235, slowly trying to close up to the gap here in the battle for the third and final podium position. Let's take a look back at the edge of the top 10 though, Sumo, because the action here is fast and happening as well. But there you can see Apex misses number 186. They've got the number 55 RSR car in front of them. And we are seeing your first takers down onto pit lane. Michael Schreiber, 4 Elements Racing Team Blue, down into pit lane.
Well, the 4 Elements Racing Team, a newly formed team, this one, including quite a few potent drivers. Let's see what they can do here. They've decided to jump the gun early on. Can they materialize that into something special? And all the things that are going on at the edge of the top 10 are quite interesting because, of course, we've got the BMW for the RSR team, Anthony Pisano, under pressure from the Apex Missers team. And now the draft will be a factor. The BMW, of course, having a straight line advantage, but both of them, of course, in the BMW, so it all negates out towards the end. In fact, funnily enough, Nick Madsen is up in the P number 14. He's also made up a position as one of the BMWs goes in the pits. That has to be the RSR car, right?
That is, we talked about Pisano maybe being the slightly slower driver in that car. 35 minutes and 20 seconds to go. So by the time he makes his way down the pit lane and hands it over to his teammate, he's going to be right on that bubble. Remember, drive time is not calculated by the race clock. It is instead calculated by the lap times that each driver does. So 35 minutes exactly on the clock. These drivers will be hoping that they don't have to do that one additional lap that we saw the last time around. While that driver change is going on though, let's jump back to the battle in second, third, and fourth. Look at Qassar Sim Racing. They've started to already close the gap to the leader in front. Half a second since the last time we saw them. The gap down to 4 seconds once again. .exe, that McLaren, trying to keep as close as they can as Lapset Racing, that 235 car, continues, Sumo, to close up onto the back of them here. And now Lapset Racing Team, they are a regular competitor here in IVRA competition. They competed in the Club Sports Summer Series where the IVRA Leagues made their debut this past summer here live on Racebot TV and the iRacing Esports Network, but now looking to get their first ever win in IVRA competition.
It's going to be very interesting to see how they tackle this challenge. Of course, they're quite an experienced team, and now this Silverstone is a completely different challenge. In fact, it's going to be quite fun. Now look at the camera that we see in the right-hand side. That camera shows you the view from the back of the car to see all the other cars behind, and just look at the darkness. Although the car behind has some properly beaming headlights that could blind you in real life, it is still pretty dark over there, and it just keeps on getting darker as we go on later in the day. Soon enough, all the drivers who have not put in enough practice in the dark will be finding themselves under pressure and in trouble, and One team under pressure is the Team Vikings. Pro Drivers Esports make the move and go down the inside at Stowe. Nice and easy, nice and clean.
And Team Vikings mid-card continue to fall through the field down into 10th place right now. Some of our YouTube chat, Sumo, wondering if the RSR car came down too early. They seem to share the same concerns I have here up in the booth. Estimated laps remaining 16 or 17 to go. They've only done 13 or 14 laps now as more takers down onto pit lane. Solar Vision Racing, Stefan Schlacker is going to hand the car over to his teammate. We've got a few other cars down on pit lane as well at this time, but we continue watching the Team Vikings car as he continues to try and hold off some of the charging cars behind him. Let's take a look though, back at the top of your order. 5th place car right now is RSR, the number 56, currently being driven by Oscar T. Koper, who has also got the fastest lap of the race today, trying to close down on the Ferrari and the McLaren in front of him. The McLaren going very deep in towards Brooklands. Now as they head through Luffield, that Ferrari starting to apply the pressure as they head towards turn number 1, Copse Corner.
He used to start the races back here, back in the day before the renovation of the Silverstone circuit. It's a conflicting one. Some people like it, some people don't. I personally am a big fan. But of course, it all depends on you as the driver when you drive around. And the McLaren seems to be doing a good job. A lunge is incoming from the Ferrari. And the Lapsat Racing team, oh my goodness me, that was dramatic. A slowing Ferrari on the exit of Mackett's corner. If you were the McLaren, you would have a brown underpant. I'm sure I would. That was dramatic. And wow, they're still going side by side. The Ferrari looks to go to the inside line. The McLaren, they're going 3 wide. This is amazing. Hold on to the edge of your seats. Who's got the edge of this one? The BMW for the RSR team goes to the outside line. The Ferrari Lapsat car, we're struggling on the outside. He's flashing his headlights. He is frustrated. And why shouldn't he be? In the pits he goes, and RSR gets 2 in 1.
What a fantastic move that was. 3 wide down into Stowe, and now the McLaren trying to fight back here. That fire-breathing McLaren has lost the place. We did see Lapsat Racing team number 235 down into pit lane. 31 minutes remaining, so 6 minutes before all of these drivers have to get out of the car and hand it over to their teammate. Solar Vision Racing, Alexander Walton has gotten back into that one. They're down in 24th place, but RSR by G Performance 56 up into a podium position. And Sumo, I'm trying to queue up a replay right now because of what a fantastic pass that one was.
Man, oh man, oh man. This is why you watch motorsport. Look at them go 3 wide. Every single one of those drivers being opportunistic in the RSR team. I mean, the Lapsat Ferrari, they were frustrated. Look at them flashing their headlights right about now. They got jumped up right in the middle, got swallowed up by 2 cars. And so they thought, hey, might as well go in the pit lane. And for the McLaren, they were under some deep, deep trouble because, Arjuna, they saw a lapped car on the entry of Maggots. If I were the McLaren, if I were the driver in the McLaren, I would be completely scattered. My thoughts would be completely in 4 different directions. That right there was properly scary stuff.
That was a very slow-moving Ferrari as they went through one of the fastest sections of track. We watch the RSR as he makes his way through Maggots and Beckett's once again. He's already built up a major gap to the car behind. Something has happened to the .exe car. That fire-breathing McLaren has had an off at some point. He's now down into 5th place, lost a position to N-Race Esports, who's now up into 4th. And here comes the BMW 186, the Apex Missers. Martin Gvireld at the wheel right now, and another aggressive defending from the McLaren as he tries to squeeze the BMW all the way to the inside. He's going to swing to the outside, try and carry as much momentum around the corner as he can. But the BMW doing a fantastic job to hold on to the inside of the corner down into pit lane. The BMW goes though. The McLaren, unfortunately now, Sumo, really struggling. We're seeing some more takers down onto pit lane. Kassar Sim Racing from 2nd place now into the pit. Along with him, Apex Missers and the number 58, Pro Driver Esports.
I'm surprised that the McLaren didn't really jump to go in the pit lane right now, because I saw them slightly struggling with a little bit of grip on the exit of the Stowe corner as we see someone getting a bit of an off with some dirt being thrown up in the background. So McLaren's obviously trying to take it deep into the race, trying to take a pit stop in the next couple of minutes. I think they're going to be taking a stop right about, what, at the end of this lap? And the .exe car have now found themselves in P number 4 here.
And we take a look left side of your screen, you'll see the entire top 18 as they run. everybody who is 5th place on forward has not pitted. So Mini Danita Racing, Nick Madsen still at the wheel currently, but Awesome Motorsports Group down on pit lane right now. You'll see them fall through the field as they continue to get pit service. So just over 3 minutes to go before the pit window is closed. Expecting to see cars down on pit lane shortly. For Florian Volk out front right now, he leads by 3.2 seconds from RSR by G Performance, the number 56 car. Oscar T. Copa really on a charge now, Sumal, and that number 56 starting to show just how strong that team is.
Yeah, they are flexing their muscles right now, but with around half of the race left to go, can they do the ultimate flex and get one up on the Maya Sim Racing car? That's going to be something to watch out for. Battles all the way through. Another second RSR with the Mist Apex team. They are going nose to tail right here. It's a three-way fight, 3 BMWs. The number 7, wow, this is going to be entertaining. Mist Apex under pressure from the 58 car. They launch Jose Maria Arias, and he gets it.
And this is the battle for 8th, 9th, and 10th. The number 55, Michael Strogbauer, has gotten back into that car. He has been one of the stronger drivers in the BMW Z4 GT3 that we've seen in today's race. Night continues to come. We're almost in pitch black running right now, and I'm pretty sure once we head to the end of this one, you're not going to be able to identify any of these cars. Takers onto pit lane though. Let's take a look. Florian Volk going to hand over the car to his teammate from the number 73 that came into the pit lane in the lead. RSR by G Performance number 56 has already come into pit lane. You can see them stopped in their box. And one thing that we have to note, Sumal, Race Control sent me a note in between each of these races. You're only allowed to be in the slow lane at pit lane for a total of 3 seconds. That's to discourage cars from driving through other people's pit boxes, much like we'd see in the real world. And Race Control is already telling me they are expecting some penalties from race number 1.
That's going to be interesting. Quite a few drivers may just be caught out by something like that. And look at the darkness. Look at how dark and pitch black it is here at Silverstone. The drivers will surely be feeling the pressure. The Lapsat team stays out. They're right here. And now, 26 minutes to go, Arjuna.
And they have already pitted, and as they come out onto turn number 1, there you can see the 2 leaders. They are neck to neck. The number 56 has come out right next to Moritz Weinrich for the number 73, and side by side they go. They've just come out of pit lane, and look right behind them. Lapsat Racing number 235 right on their tail. This is going to be a 3-way fight for the race win here in race number 2 of the IVRA GT Series. They've got a 5-second gap to 4th place right now. They do have to remember though, Sumal, 25 minutes to go. If they scrap this one out, they are letting those cars further behind them back into this one.
Absolutely, you lose time when you're fighting with each other, and that is what these guys will not want to do. It's a 3-way scrap till the very top, and the Lapsat Racing team, they have got the momentum on their side. The temperatures will be at their optimum. What can Tristan Iglesias do in this case? Heading towards Cop's Corner. Still clean. Look at how he gains up on the BMW on the entry, but loses a little bit of a gap on the exit. That BMW, of course, a front engine car, I beg your pardon, having that extra grunt as the car pulls itself along. And now, Arjuna, the draft will be under a factor. I'm sorry. Wow, everything's going to be really fun here. All these 3 guys can get so close to each other. Are we going to see something like a 2 wide or a 3 wide here for the lead then?
Here they come then down the hangar straight once again. To the inside looks the BMW. He's going to try and get the move done. But the Audi around the outside is going to be able to roll the momentum. But here comes the Ferrari down the inside. The Audi is down, potentially down into P number 3. And side by side for 2nd place they go. The Ferrari deep under braking. The Audi almost clips him. The Audi has lost 3 places in the space of 2 corners. But that RSR by G Performance BMW up into the lead. Lapsat Racing 235 looking to try and get to the point.
Oh my goodness me, I had a mini heart attack over there when the Audi was just about to be clipped on. I thought that at the chicane those guys would do yet another synchronized spin and the leaders would be spun all the way around. Thankfully, the drivers know exactly what they're doing and they keep it clean. Just the quality of the racing, Arjuna, today, it has been absolutely immense. We expected some goods right here at Silverstone from the IVRA GT Sprint Series, but this has been something even better. And now, something interesting has popped up on the timing screen. The number 78 Helsingfeld car, Matt Stog Hertzfeld, has set a new personal best, an overall best, mind you, at 2 minutes 1:12. That is a mind-blowing lap. He's lapping so much faster than anyone else, around 6/10 faster than the leaders.
Well, one thing I'm very curious to see now, Sumo, the night is well and truly upon us. The temperatures are very, very cool. If you take a look at timing71.org, which is back up and running for this race too, I think. The last time I checked, it was still up and running, but...
No, it's still up.
It's still up. The temperature is very, very cool. Track temperature, Sumo, 23 degrees Celsius. We're starting to see the pace slowly pick up out front as well. And I'm going to be curious to see as we cross the line once again, are we going to be in that situation where some drivers might have short-filled the car and might need to come down at the very end of the race. Before we get there though, Altitude Esports, they missed race number 1, and Ashley Beard, you can see him there getting past, in fact, sorry, no, that's not Ashley Beard. There's Ashley Beard in the 111 Altitude Esports. He's had an issue. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happened to him starting at the back, and it was side by side with the Rogers A51 car. And there's going to be contact there. That's coming through the arena section, and the 111 gets shoved off the road.
Punted from the side. That's a rather bizarre place to go rightwards on the circuit. They are going wheel to wheel at this case, and then you see that slight bit of contact. The second one rammed at the back, and Altitude Esports just descending down, sadly. It's not really going well for them. Another replay with the Pro Drive Esports cars. We see the Vikings car there as well, the Audi. And the Pro Drive car, classic Audi R8, carry too much speed, gets spun around.
And how many times have we seen that here today? Let's take a look on board then with that Team Vikings car. He will be side by side here with one of his other competitors, but he will see the view that he had as he had to avoid that spinning Pro Drive car in front, the number 24. The Team Vikings car doing a good job to stay out of the way. Now, unfortunately for them, Sumo, they are struggling a bit. We saw them at the front. They're now down in 14th place, and I'm going to butcher this name, Harry Kjelin continues to try and push on at this point. There's been some interesting incidents up and down this field so far, though, as some of our YouTube chat is starting to take a look at. But we'll jump back out to the front because unfortunately for the number 73, he's fallen off the battle for the lead. Moritz Weinrich has unfortunately lost already 2 seconds. But there you go, the G-Performance RSR car, the number 56, pushing the track limits at Copse. And he continues to be hassled by Tristan Iglesias for second.
Yeah, it's a bit sad to see the Maya Sim Speed car just being put behind after that pit stop. They had a lot of momentum on their side early on. Later, it's just swinging away from them slowly and steadily. Let's hope to see a good comeback by Moritz Weinrich in the car. But now, our attention has to be diverted towards Tristan Iglesias with the Lapsate Racing team. Now, for Lapsate Racing team, they were slightly off the spotlight in the first one. I mean, they had a few incidents here and there. But now, they're well and truly in the thick of it, Arjuna.
They really are, and we'll see what happens here. The battle out front. I tell you what, while they continue to do battle at the pointy end of your field, let's take a look then throughout the rest of the pack. I'm trying to look for some of the drivers who finished on the podium in that last race. And look at Mini Danita Racing now, up into 14th place as a result of that spin slightly earlier on. Slightly further back than they would have wanted, Sumo, but take a look at this gap right now. They have done the hard work. They were at 1.22 seconds behind your race leader. Now already the gap down to 11 seconds, and Schlax will be wondering how close he can get to a top 5 finish maybe.
Yeah, Michael Schlax fighting it out for the Mini Danita team. They were involved in a spin early on, and if you remember, it's been a long time since that, but the time has just been flying out, and so the comeback for Mini Danita is on the right track. But one wonders where they could have been had it not been for that spin and they would have been relegated. Perhaps we could see them in the top 5 already. Again, racing just like life, it's all about would-haves, could-haves and should-haves. Now then, they're just grabbing the opportunity, but Pro Driver Esports are not, as Felipe Valentin sadly finds himself on the exit of the track, spinning round. He's back up and going, Arjuna, but oh no, that's a violent crash on the barriers. Where's that happen actually?
Let's see if we can get a replay of this one. I have honestly no idea, Sumo, but let's jump on board the 24 car who had an incident just a few laps ago. Coming through turn number 1 and 2. What's going to happen? The rear end steps out. He tries to save it. Unfortunately, nothing he can do. And magically, Sumo, he managed to avoid the barriers. What a fantastic save from Felipe Valentin there to keep the car in clean condition.
That was a mind-blowing car control piece of car control right there. He spun around, lost the rear end. The rear tires just gave up on him. You see him? And... oh no, he actually saved it. Wow, Felipe Valentin, if you're watching this, mate. Epic stuff. I'm sure he won't be happy with the spin, but he'll surely just have a note in his notebook saying, that's a good control by me. Surely one moment for the history books and for a personal replay counter. But now then, Maya SimSpeed performance, oh, their bad day just keeps on getting worse. Under pressure from one of the BMWs at the back now, Arjuna.
Yep, they are down indeed. I'm trying to see as well when they lost P number 3 to Kassar Sim Racing. Let's take a look at a few replays then for what's happened to the number 73. And it was Garrett Thompson who managed to get the move done. I believe this will be down in at the end of the... this will be Brooklyn's at the end of the Wellington straight rather. And we take a look though, what happened? How did Michael Strohberger manage to get the move done as well? This is now heading through Luffield on the run down towards Cops. Let's jump on board the number 55. Anthony Pisano was at one point struggling a little bit more in this car, but since Strohbauer has managed to get in, he's managed to put the pressure on as they head towards Cops. I don't believe the move was happening here. Let's jump to another replay then, and we'll take a look at the move as it did happen. This was actually down at the end of the hangar straight down in towards Stowe and around the outside for the BMW, able to hang it around the outside and get the move done. So 73 now down into 5th place, and while we were watching some replays, unfortunately, down into 6th. Let's get a replay of the move for Jose M. Arias in the number 58 Pro Drive car, down the inside into the arena section, and the number 73 really starting to struggle right now.
Yeah, Moritz Weinrich having a tough time at the back of the Maya SimSpeed car. Jose M. Arias says, yeah, that's my position, I'm going to get it. And now at the back, the Apex Missers team also trying to get one up on the Maya SimSpeed car. There's Johnny Koenig in that BMW. Question is, does he get it for himself? He looks and... nope, not quite getting that position in for himself. In fact, the Apex Missers team, they are quite potent. They have got quite a few good drivers. And the best part is their motto, interestingly enough, is quite funny. It is, look pro, go slow, hold your line, you be fine.
Well, unfortunately, Mayor SimSpeed continues to drop down the order now into 9th position. What an awful second half of this race for them. They're trying to hold off a charge around the outside for another Audi. That's Mini Danita, who's now made their way up into P number 8. So Mini Danita. And there's the number 55. RSR by G Performance. The number 55 has had an issue of their own. Let's grab a replay of this one. But my, oh my, it's all kicking off now. With just over 15 minutes to go. It was down in towards that last chicane, side by side with a Ferrari. I believe that's Kassar Sim Racing, and there's going to be a little bit of contact as the RSR car goes to try and cut the nose off. Interesting incident there, Sumo. I think that might be called a racing incident.
Yeah, that chicane has led to quite a few incidents of that sort right there. And at that case, when you're in that particular moment, the nose of your car feels as long as that of Pinocchio, and you just have no control over it at all. You have to have control as a racing driver, but it is such a complex section of track to navigate as a racing driver when going too wide with one another. Well, as they say in life, stuff happens and you've got to go on and deal with it. Question is, what can RSR Esport do now? 15 minutes to go. They've got a little bit of time to make a comeback. Where do they find themselves right now? In fact, it's in P number 8.
Yeah, take a look at the left-hand side of your screen as it stands right now. RSR by G Performance. Number 56 leads by 0.3 of a second from the number 235 Ferrari. That's continuing to hound them. Then there's a further 7 seconds back to the number 25 Kassar Sim Racing Hydra. And this is a battle raging on. But look at where the number 14 Sumo Mini Danita Racing is. Very strong performance for that car this weekend so far. They still see the potential here for a second podium position. That will be a fantastic result for a team that got hit slightly earlier in the race.
Absolutely, and for them, they have to gain quite a few positions, around 4 odd positions. But interestingly enough, for Mini Danita, they're not too far off. Only around a gap of 1.2 seconds to the next car, then around the 10th, then 9/10 of a second, and then 7/1000 of a second. As you see on the screen, that gap is quite visible. They are going side by side at the top, and the end racing BMW spins again.
the iRacing esports car gets caught up in another incident. Let's take a replay of that one. We were riding on board with Mini Danita, who's now got 2 free positions as a result of this one. It was N-Race trying to go for a bold move down the inside, becomes the outside for this second section, and unfortunately, the Apex Missers car just pushes a little bit too much. And that is what sends that N-Race car around. They had that penalty incoming potentially in race number 1, that number 199, but this time, Sumo, no fault of their own.
Well, the N in N-Racing this time stands for 9, sadly for them. The German expression for saying no. What we will say yes to is another battle on our screens heading towards Luffield Corner. This one would be for P number 6, and look at this, it's a familiar face, it's Mini Danita. Now, Arjuna, they find themselves in P number 6, behind the Apex Missers car. Every single one of their targets for the podium slot is right here. 13 minutes to go. This is like one of those scenarios in the old Gran Turismo game. You've got 2 laps, you're in this position, get to the podium, only in limited time. Bring it on.
And this was a pass for the race lead. Look at the laps at Racing 235 diving down the inside at Club to take over the race lead from RSR by G Performance. Number 56. What a bold move that was. As we jump back to the live pictures, you can see a half a second separate these 2 drivers. 12.5 minutes still to go. There's going to be a fight for each one of these podium positions. It's not over just yet. Laps at Racing will be looking to pull away right now, but they do know that that RSR by G Performance number 56 BMW has been very strong in its own right. Laps at Racing looking for their first ever IVRA GT Sprint Series win here in the opening round of this IVRA GT Sprint Series. They're up in to P number 1. Let's see if they're able to hold on to it. As we jump back, though, to Mini Danita, they continue to scrap it out right now, and they have the Apex Missers number 186 in front of them. And as they come down into turn number 1, look at the momentum that Audi is able to roll through the corner, Sumo. That Audi is on a charge and sees that podium position up for grabs.
The Audi has been a very tough car to drive here at Silverstone with all the high and mid-speed corners. They are under attack from another car behind. That's the RSR car. And the RSR team does not get the move in this time out. And ironically, the Apex Missers have got to do only one thing right now. Hit all your Apexes, because if they can, there is no way that the Mini Danita team can be making their way past. It may be a wide circuit, but the GT3 cars are wide in itself as well, and passing can be a bit of a luxury at times. What can they do? Time for a replay. Something rather acrimonious has happened, and it's with the Solar Vision team in the gravel, in the grass, in the wall. No, not in the wall, thankfully.
Yeah, fortunately for them, through Magus and Beckett's, they got it very, very wrong, but Alexander Walton able to gather that up. 3rd place finishes in race number 1, struggling a bit more here in race number 2. Let's jump back to the live pictures. Battle 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. Look at how wide the RSR by G Performance number 55 got, pushing the track limits as much as they can through cops. They dive their way into Maggots and Beckett's once again. 3rd through 7th, separated, Sumo, by just 2 seconds on track right now.
And that is the delight for drivers who want to get the most of the situation. Some will be trundling along and trying to defend their position, while the others, they just want more. Mini Danita wants more as well. They are looking for something on the Apex Missers. They've got the inside line for this, and they'll be cycling out to the inside once again for the chicane. It's a tough place to go side by side, mind you, but that does not make them go wide.
He looked for it. Mini Danita went very deep into Club Corner, trying to pull alongside, but Apex Missers braking just as late as him. That BMW's got the grunt on the straight line, but is also fairly nimble in the corners. That front engine configuration, though, does make it tricky sometimes as you balance the weight transfer. And here comes the BMW behind Michael Strohbauer to the outside as they head into the arena section. Is he going to be able to keep alongside? Nope. That Audi's going to run all the way wide, and he's going to compromise his entry now into the next corner. Is the 55 going to be able to get the run off? No, he's not. All going to hold station here for 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th on track. There are battles further back as well. Let's jump back just to show them to you on your screen. That is the Apex Missers number 185. Oh, and that's a Kassar Sim Racing Leo car around, and there was further contact. Oh, word. Let's get a replay of that. What perfect timing that was, Sumo. We caught that just in time.
Oh, dearie me for Kassar Sim Racing. What has happened here then? They were ahead of the Apex Missers team on the grass, and all of a sudden, the rear end just decides to let go. And if you're the Solar Vision team and the Apex Missers, the hair at the back of your neck will be giving a standing ovation, because for them, it came as close as they could to an ended race. Riding on board with Solar Vision, Alexander Walton. When he watches this race back, he'll be having dreams 10 or 20 days later, thinking about, oh man, that could have been a big accident. Man, the perils of GT racing all coming into fray.
And
I love it.
And there you'll see some of the damage to the 32, so they will be struggling for the remaining 8 minutes of this one. They'll be hoping to hold on to 15th place on track. Let's jump back to your race leaders though. Number 56, they round the last corner once again, come across the line 8 minutes and 2 seconds. So Sumo, they are right on the cusp of not needing to do an extra lap, but we will not actually know until the last moments of the race. The way that iRacing works, us in the broadcast booth aren't going to actually know if it's the white flag until the leaders actually take the checkered flag or the clock hits 0. So it's going to be tough for us to call up here, but right now it's looking very, very close. We may get away without that one extra lap.
The interesting part is that normally the leader can slow the pace down in a case like this one if they do not want to go for one extra lap. But if you're Tristan Iglesias, you cannot do that, because right behind is Dominic Kulikowski. I hope I've got that name correctly, for the RSR by G Performance 56 car. For them, it's all about pouncing on one mistake that the Lapsat Racing team makes right now. And Tristan Iglesias, as much as he wants to slow the pace down, he cannot be obliged to do so. Right behind is a challenger who's hungry for more.
That G Performance car lined up next to its teammate, and what a odd contrasting weekend it has been for them. This number 56 now fighting up in second place. For the number 55, number of incidents for them. It will be a weekend of what could have been, but for RSR by G Performance, they want the number 56 car now to take home this win. We've had, obviously, Mini Danita Racing taking that win in the first round, and now race number 2, round number 2, the second and final race from RAF Silverstone, the former Air Force base. Let's see what happens as they head down now one more time through Stowe. 6 minutes and 17 seconds to go. It's very close to being 3 laps to go. And right now, RSR closing the gap. Let's jump back though to the battle a little bit further back, because look at the Apex Missers, number 186, all over the back right now of Qassar Sim Racing Hydra. Third place is starting to pull away. That's Pro Driver Esports, number 58. Jose M. Arias at the wheel, looking to pull away in another BMW Z4. But the highest ranked Ferrari is now the 235, but the second highest ranked Ferrari, Qassar Sim Racing Hydra, having a very strong run. And Sumo, I think back to Petit Le Mans yesterday, the iRacing Petit Le Mans powered by VCO. This GT3 class was a one-make class. Every single team electing to run the Audi R8 GT3, but it's been good to see the performance that all of these GT cars have. They're all being able to show off at different points of the circuit exactly how much pace they have.
Absolutely, diversity coming into play. Remember, different characteristics, different styles, different approaches in the way these cars are designed. Everything is different, but the racing is just beautiful. The Ferrari comes under pressure right now from the Apex Missers. The Qassar Sim Racing team with Garrett Thompson behind the wheel. And now the Apex Missers are going side by side with the RSR. There's a flashing Mini Danita. He is angry at the back, Michael Schlacks. Boy, everything is getting even more dramatic with 5 minutes to go. What can RSR do then? They've taken a shallower line down the inside. Now our focus shifts to the .exe sports car, and they're finding themselves in P15. It pains me to see that.
And that's because there was an incident. Let's take a look at this replay now. Matthew Briggs at the wheel of the McLaren, and he just gets sent by one of those Apex Missers cars. He didn't miss his apex there. He missed his braking zone. And unfortunately, that's one of the Lapsat Racing cars, the number 11, who makes further contact. It's all kicking off with just a few minutes to go. Let's take a look back, though, at the battle for your lead. Tristan Iglesias now has a 1.5 second buffer to Dominic Kulikowski. We talk about him maybe being able to back up the pace a little bit now, Sumo. He has a little bit of a buffer room. Let's see what happens. They cross the line in just a few seconds. I do believe he'll cross it below that 4-minute barrier, so we are looking at 2 laps to go. Let's jump back though to the battle for 4th, because Apex Misters have managed to get past Garrett Thompson in the Qassar Racing 488. It's all kicking off here. They're trying to close the gap to Pro Driver Esports in front, but Jose Arias now has a 3-second gap to deal with, and here comes RSR by G Performance, the number 55, looking into turn number 1. He's going to have to back off the corner, but they may try and set it up now into the arena section.
Okay then, if you haven't really grabbed your popcorn, I feel really sorry for you, because what you're about to see right now is box office racing. RSR not getting it done in the end, because Garrett Thompson defends the position extremely well. They've hit the apex quite well now. And Team Mini Dinita have not advanced from P number 7 for quite a while. Tell you what though, one person on the hunt for an advancement is going to be Johnny Koenig. He is up ahead now. RSR looks and lunges on Garrett Thompson. The BMW Z4 gets the position. Notice them going extremely deep on the AstroTurf to use every single millimeter of the circuit. They've got the position in. They have moved up the order. And now the Ferrari, he says, what? You've got the position on me for now. I've still got 2 minutes and 45 seconds. I want to get it back. And Michael Schlacks, after making that remarkable comeback, going past Kopp's corner, he's in the best position. If anything goes wrong, he's right there to pick up the pieces and get the move, as he's right now getting close. Oof! Whoa!
A terrible exit there for Garrett Thompson coming out of Kopp's corner, not able to roll the momentum through the mid part as he would have wanted to. And now look at that, you can see the Canadian flag on the back of Qassar Sim Racing. They're being chased by, it appears to be, an Italian team in Mini Dinita Racing. At least that's what those flags on the end plates would indicate. RSR by G Performance is trying to pull away. This is the battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th, and 8th place behind them as well. N-Race Esports looking to get into the action. Brake discs are glowing. Mini Dinita forced a bit wide, carrying too much momentum through the corner. Down in towards Club. Are they going to look to the outside? Instead, they're going to defend from the BMW behind them. But as we cross the line, one more lap to go, I do believe, and Laps at Racing 235 continue to lead by 1.5 seconds. This is the first battle then up on your screen. 6th versus 7th on track. And Mini Dinita Racing, who won round number 1, looking to try and secure a 6th place finish here in race number 2. It's been a difficult one for them here in the reverse grid order, but Garrett Thompson really fighting for all his worth to hold on in that 488 GT3.
Now, if you're Garrett Thompson, you've got one clear defined task. I want to defend. If you're Jordan Fruin in the N-Race Esports car, you have one task. I have to attack. If you are Michael Schlacks in Mini Dinita, you've got to do a bit of both. For now, he chooses to go full send. And he's going to go on the outside line.
And look at this around the outside. He's trying to hang it out. That's not going to work, though. That Ferrari able to roll enough momentum to cut him off. But Mini Dinita, they've been fantastic through Luffield this entire race. They're going to try and get the power down off the corner, get into that draft. And once again, they're going to try and potentially look to get the move done coming out of Kopp's corner. Important corner here for Garrett Thompson. He needs to be able to hold on coming down into Maggots and Beckett. He needs to roll the momentum as much as he can. He appears to have struggled once again a little bit. The Audi has been superior through Kopp's, but the Ferrari able to hold on once again. That BMW threatening behind them as well. All the while, Laps at Racing 235 continue to pull away with this one. We'll continue to watch this battle up on your screen, though. Once again, Garrett Thompson struggling through Maggots and Beckett. Here comes the Audi. The Audi's got a great run off the corner down this straight. They're going to head down into Stowe. The Ferrari's covering the inside line, forces the Audi up to the outside. What's he going to do? Mini Dinita, they want some points here. But as this battle continues to rage on, let's take a look at your race winner for race number 2. It is Laps at Racing team number 235 flashing the lights as they take home their first ever IVRA GT Series win.
And take a deep breath after that one. Wow! 2 utterly mind-blowing races with drama everywhere. And Tristan Iglesias getting it done, but look at this battle. Oh no, Mini Dinita, no, 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 no. Going on the grass, eventually recovering. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. But boy, did they have to fight hard for that one.
And we cut off just as that incident was happening. Let's see if we can ride on board then with the car that was behind. That would be the N-Race, the 199 car. They were trying to get up, and here we go. There you can see the contact made, and N-Race almost gets shoved off into the pit entry as well. That will be a look required by the race stewards, I do believe, Sumo. I wonder if there's going to be some post-race action in the stewards room. Remember, all incidents are investigated post-race. And as we wait for the final cars to come across the line, look at the N-Race car, the number 199 in 7th position. But it is number 235, Tristan Iglesias, who takes home the win here. What a fantastic performance, and good to see, Sumo, the Ferrari getting a good finish here.
What a race it was for the Lapsat Racing team, having to fight it out in the hard way, getting their hands dirty, going down deep and digging right for it. And in the end, what they get is a big W. What a win.
So as we wait for the final cars to come across the line, just a few stragglers left in the field as it stands. Let's take a look then at Lapsat Racing number 235 as they come across Stowe Corner once again. We'll see if they do a few donuts to celebrate this time around. We didn't see that from your last race winners. But there we go. The last car has officially crossed the line. Note, these guys are diving down onto pit lane. So with that being said, let's take a look then at the race results. So it was Lapsat Racing, the Team 235 car, that takes home the win here in round number 2 of the IVRA GT Sprint Series. RSR by G Performance number 56, so close for them to be able to get their win as well. But a disappointing weekend overall, you would have to assume, given the amount of pace the entire RSR 4-man team has showed. Pro Driver Esports is going to take home that third and final podium position, with the Apex Missers number 186, followed closely by RSR by G Performance number 55. Qassar Sim Racing Hydra comes in 6th place at the end, N-Race Esport, and then Mini Danita Racing. But remember, there may be some post-race action in the steward rooms that rearranges this final results order. Shipsky Racing, the number 222, finishes in 9th place, with Mayor Sim Speed Performance dropping to 10th place after leading for much of the first portion of this race. Xanity Motorsport in 11th place, with a big gap back to Team Vikings Midgard, who continued to struggle throughout this 1-hour race, with Solar Vision Racing, the number 32, slotting in P number 13. The second Apex Missers car comes in P number 14. And for Team Heiskenveld, the number 78, it will definitely be a race of what could have been. Messed up the qualifying procedure a little bit, had to serve a 30-second stop and hold penalty, still managed to come in just 50 seconds behind your race leader. Archer Brother Esports in 16th, Pro Driver Esports Black in 17th, .exe Esports Neon Green, the number 18, McLaren Fire Breather coming down in P number 18, with Lapsat Racing Team 11 and FBP Racing 488 rounding out the top 20. Take a look at your final finishes then. 29 cars finished on the lead lap. FBP Racing 458. Awesome Motorsports Group in 22nd. The Roaring Chicken Nuggets in 23rd place. Lapsat Racing Team, their third car, slots in 24th, with NJB Performance, the 733, who had a rough weekend, slotting in 25th. Altitude Esports recovers from missing race number 1 with a 26th place, with 4 Elements Racing Team Blue Rogers 851, and then the Altitude Esports Blue car with the State Coffee on the edge of the top 30. 3 cars who didn't make it to the final line for the checkered flag. Qassar Sim Racing Leo, Team Oblivion Racing, and then summing up a miserable weekend for Team Heiskenveld, coming in 33rd and final place here in race number 2. And Sumo, let's just catch our breath a little bit. It's been 2 crazy and chaotic races, but wow, what a debut here for the IVRA GT Sprint Series.
What a debut indeed. And I already can't wait for the next round at Donington Park. And you may call me very cheesy and just using the classic commentator line, but no. As you can see right here, the racing was just so intense that it just won more and more and more and more every single time. Well, I guess we've got to wait for that one, but man, today I expected something and I haven't been disappointed. In fact, I've got more than that. This right here, folks, is the benchmark. There's going to be a lot more amazing racing coming your way. Bring it on then.
bring it on indeed. But before we wrap up here for the initial race weekend for the IVRA GT Sprint Series, let's take the time to talk to the podium position winners in this second round of the IVRA GT Sprint Series. And let's start by bringing in Tristan Iglesias' teammate, Pascal Marcos Radchin, and Sumo, you're standing by.
Pascal, firstly, mate, what a race that was in the end. What are your thoughts on that? How would you sum it up on your own, if you had to?
I think this has been the longest last minutes in my life. I think I've never... I didn't breathe for the last minutes. I was just sitting there and hoping everything is going right. And the RSR did a driver error in the last sector, and then we had a second gap or something, and then we could breathe a little bit, but it was so intense.
And what was it like in your sim? Because we saw all the drama that you faced early on with the reverse grid as well. How satisfying is it to keep it all together to the end?
It is very satisfying, but because you just expect somebody to spin in front of you because everybody's just so stacked up, and it's even worse than in race 1. So I just hope everything is going fine and everything is going clean, and yeah.
And Pascal, what about the track, Silverstone itself? Because we saw lots of drivers say that managing the setup here is going to be a bit tricky. How did it go for you guys on the whole?
It's so tricky because you have to set up the car in a weird way, because there are so many tight corners but also fast corners, and then there are long straights. The track has literally no camber, so you have to watch out for the tires. It's so hard to just keep everything in mind.
And what do you think about the pitch strategy? What did you go for? Eventually, of course, it paid off and you got the big win, but lots of teams were having differing opinions, some taking tires, some taking extra fuel. What was it like for you guys?
We decided before the actual race weekend that we won't change tires, because that would mean we would have to start with 120 liters, and that's just too much for us to. That's just too much pace we lose with that amount.
Finally, mate, is there anyone who'd like to give a shout out to your friends, family members, sponsors, teammates, anyone as such for this big win?
Yeah, of course, Tristan did a very, very good job. He couldn't be here for the interview, but how he held it together for the last 30 minutes was just brilliant. So shout outs to him. Lapset Racing, of course, they are just helping us in every way they can to make us feel good, to make us better drivers. So yeah.
Well, congratulations, man. This was a big, big victory, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it quite a bit. Soak it all up.
Yeah, we did. Thank you.
Well, that, folks, was Pascal Marcos Radchin from the winning 235 team. What a drive it was for them towards the end. And who have we got next, Arjuna?
I'm just taking a look right now, and I do believe that we might have the second place finisher, Oscar T. Koper, and he's standing by with you, Sumo.
Oscar, that
hello.
was... that got intense at times, didn't it? Towards the end.
It was hard to watch.
Well, I can agree. How was it like for you? Because, of course, we saw RSR doing a very good job initially. We saw everything. You guys were fighting it out for the lead. Are you satisfied with P number 2 in the end?
Well, since it's our IVRA debut, I think I can't be anything else but happy.
And what do you have to say about the weekend on the whole? Are you pretty satisfied? And what do you expect for Donington when we go there next time out?
But this weekend, we qualified P8, got spun out in lap 1 of race 1. So we had to do kind of a comeback race as well. We finished P5, so I can't complain about that. And second race P26 to P2, so I guess all in all it was a pretty good weekend for us.
And the kind of comeback that you made from P22, in so many places you had lots of cars to dodge, lots of incidents in and around. How did you keep your composure towards the end?
Yeah, it's all about keeping the car alive. That's all. That's it. You make contact with every car you pass, you're not going to finish the race. So it's all about keeping it clean, waiting for your moments, and passing where it's possible.
And you certainly did that towards the end. And Oscar, finally, is there anyone you would like to thank for this result? Any teammates, family members, or sponsors as such?
Obviously, my teammate Dominic, he did a really good job in race 1 to bring it back to P13 first pit stop, and he drove a very solid stint in the second race, and gotta give a big thanks to our team boss Anthony, who drove in the other RSR car, who made it possible for us to drive here. So really happy with that.
Congratulations, Oscar, on this big result. We hope to see more of that in Donington in a few weeks' time.
Thank you very much.
That, folks, was Oscar T. Cooper from the RSR by G Performance Team number 56. And who have we got next?
Standing by is your third place finishers, Pro Driver Esports and Jose Maria Arias. Standing by with you, Sumo.
Jose, congratulations on P number 3. What a result. How are you feeling? Jose, do you copy? So, how are you feeling, mate? What a result it was for you, finishing in P number 3. Are you very happy with this?
Hola, hola, vale. Javi, ¿se te escucha? Sorry, I am no speak English.
No problem.
Javi.
Hello. Sorry. I was mistaken with the button.
No worries.
José, te preguntan cómo te sientes tras el increíble resultado.
Bueno, la verdad es que muy bien, no nos esperábamos, para nada llegar al podio. Ha sido una sorpresa tanto para Vicen como para mí a la hora de salir de box, que nos hemos encontrado en la P6 y tenía bastante ritmo para poder llegar adelante, y veíamos que los coches de adelante pues perdían, o sea, iban bastante más lentos. Supongo que será por el tema de gomas y demás, que los entrenamientos pues los estuvimos estudiando y tocamos un poquito el tema de las convergencias y tal. Pero bien.
Jose says this result is amazing for us. We didn't expect the result at the start of the race because we made a bad qualifying. After the pit stop, we find our car at P6, and we was faster than the other cars, and I was on for the team. I was on result and didn't expect it.
Well, congratulations. And who would you like to give a shout out to? Any team members, any sponsors as such?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Is there anyone who would like to give a shout out to? Any teammates, any sponsors, any family members as such?
No, we have no sponsor. We are a team with 2 years old, and we are a friends team who wants to enjoy only the sim racing and this environment.
Well, many congratulations, guys.
Thanks a lot, and congratulations for the streaming, for the championship, and hoping enjoy a lot more in the next round.
Absolutely, that will be fun. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, and congratulations on the result, folks. That, folks, was the Pro Drive Esports team, and although they do not really speak English, but their intent, the way they drove today, was absolutely amazing.
And what an incredible weekend of racing this format has promoted. We take one more look at the format right now, Sumo. 30 minutes of qualifying, all leading to those 2 60-minute sprint races. And what racing that we got from all of our competitors here today.
Mind-blowing stuff. It was jaw-dropping, to say the least. Everything was so amazing, from the crashes to the battles to the drama for the lead. I can't wait for more. Bring it on.
Well, speaking of more, let's take a look then at your schedule. Today, October 4th, rounds 1 and 2 of the IVRA GT Sprint Series. We'll be back in a few weeks' time from Donington Park for what should prove to be a very interesting round indeed. Then have a little bit of a break before we head to Daytona International Speedway. Another month off in between every single round there. And so this is going to be the quickest turnaround, Sumo, that all of these teams have. And I'm guessing some of them have already started prepping for Silverstone. For Donington. We're at Silverstone.
Donington. Yeah. Yeah, they already have to start putting the preparations in. The level of competition in this series is so intense that they've got to be one step ahead all the time. And that's why the preparation never stops.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us here for the inaugural round of the IVRA GT Sprint Series. Some of the most exciting racing we've got to see here live on the iRacing Esports Network and RaceBot TV. We'll see you in a few weeks' time for the rounds 3 and 4 from Donington Park. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your weekend. We hope to see you here on the iRacing Esports Network in a few weeks' time.